What would you do if right now in this very moment you were transported back to the year 1908 and the only way you could get back to your original time is to identify and fix the problem in your broken down car using only the materials around you from the early 1900s? This is essentially the plight of the Diffys, the family from the future. I recently rewatched several of my favorite childhood shows' Halloween specials, and it forced me to go back in the recesses of my mind and remember shows long forgotten. Most notably being today's topic, Phil of the Future. Phil of the Future centers around a family that is from the year 2121 until their time machine breaks down while they're on an excursion, leaving them broken down in the year 2004. Now, this family is forced to fit into what, to them, is the world of the past, and hijinks ensue. Yes, I'm going to try to wear these glasses the whole time. Yes, they're very uncomfortable. I remember thoroughly enjoying this show whenever it was on TV as a kid, but for some reason, it's completely foreign to me right now. I can't remember a single plot line to a single episode, and that sucks because the concept's pretty interesting, you know? We get to explore the fish out of water dynamic from the perspective of a family so far ahead of their setting, both in knowledge and technology, that it's like, ooh, we're really going back in time. This leads me to this point right here and right now where I made the decision to rewatch the entire series. Not just as a means to tap into my latent nostalgia, but more so as an attempt to understand the future that Phil and his family are coming from. I want to know what gadgets they have, what future history gets mentioned, and frankly, I want to know how long they get stuck in the past and how they actually make it back to the future. Do they make it back to the future? I don't know. One more thing before we really get started on this rewatch project. Phil and his family travel from the year 2121 to the year 2004, where the show takes place, meaning that they are 118 years removed from their original time. I alluded to this in my opening statement, that if we were to be transported back in time 118 years from the year 2025, when I'm recording this, then we would be stuck in the year 1908. And for context, a few things that were invented in 1908 were the vacuum cleaner, coffee filters, a gyro compass, and the Ford Model T was unveiled, which essentially turned cars from like a really high-class luxury item into something that everyone owned. So if we were back there, we wouldn't have cars. I think the Wright brothers unveiled their first public flight in 1908, so you weren't flying anywhere either. You were just fucking living your days out. Like, I don't even know what I would have at my disposal to work with if I was in 1908. So this time while I'm watching it, I plan to keep in mind just how far of a gap in time this family really is dealing with. That's not even considering the absolute insane growth of technology that we've experienced in the 21st century. Like, the Diffys could be from a future where everyone's brains are hooked up to the internet because they're all craving and starved for a higher level of dopamine output. But I'm not sure yet. I'll keep my eye out for anything suspicious.
Hey, I'm Ricky Yeoman, and you're watching Disney Channel.
I have immediately found something suspicious. So I was all set up, about to watch episode 1 of Phil of the Future, and I was watching the intro scene, and to my surprise, the family was already in the modern age, and they were already acting as if nothing was really new. And like, I remember there being an introductory episode where Phil and Pim go to school for the first time wearing weird outfits. Where are the weird outfits? Apparently this show was aired in production order instead of chronological order, which means when I clicked on episode 1 of the show, I was actually watching the opening scene to chronologically episode 5. And if I want to watch the first episode when the Diffys first land in the future, I have to scroll down and watch episode 10. So I will now be watching Phil of the Future in chronological order, which is not how it appears on streaming services. This is what it's going to look like. Now that we properly have that information, let's get into the first episode of Phil of the Future.
This is not a toy. Bad things will happen if you don't use it for the right reason.
To get through high school, Phil's got the right gear, but he's stuck in the wrong year.
I'm not sure how long it's going to take me to fix the time machine.
From the makers of Even Stevens and Lizzie McGuire.
I'm going on a joyride!
I told you something bad was going to happen.
You really are from the future.
Phil of the Future.
My head shrink again.
at 7, 6 Central on Disney Channel.
Please don't judge my outfit in this portion. We had our first snowfall where I live, and it's freezing because I record these out in my shed. Now, before we get into the first episode, it's important that we first analyze the lyrics to the theme song of the show because it gives us the entire premise of how this show even came to be, similar to Danny Phantom or Cory in the House. Meet a boy named Phil and his family on vacation from the 22nd century. They got a rented time machine and they're on their way to a time way, way, way back in the day. So now he's Phil of the future, keeping it together just the best as he can. Phil of the future, he's a 22nd century man. On a holiday through history, but the final destination was a mystery. But something on the time machine had blown, so they ended up right here in our time zone. So now he's Phil of the future. Never knew in history just where he would land. Phil of the future, he's a 22nd century man. This gives us the answer to the burning question of why they were even time traveling in the first place. They were going through different time periods for a family vacation. Now we can finally dive into the first episode we'll be talking about, Future Tutor. The opening scene in this episode depicts father of the family Lloyd and mother of the family Barb discussing what the kids should wear to school to best fit in. To which Pim, the youngest of the family, walks into the room outraged that she has to socialize with these lesser ancient beings, while Phil is more concerned with how they plan to fit in, as the school system is a little different here than what they're used to. Lloyd tells his children not to worry because he's going to give them a crash course on the modern age, but he mistakenly teaches them and gives them outfits from the 70s, making them still look like outcasts when they walk into school. Phil walks into his math class and immediately solves a problem that's perplexing popular student Tia. The teacher then presents Phil with an even more complex math problem, to which he solves effortlessly, earning the applause of a young Evan Peters. During his lunch period, Phil offers to tutor Tia and her friend Keely because they got called out by their math teacher earlier in the day for being stupid and not being able to solve an algebra problem. They both kind of give him the cold shoulder, to which Phil takes the hint and he goes to sit with Evan Peters. Or Seth Washmer, I guess. Seth explains to Phil the high school social hierarchy, and Phil thinks that this is a terrible system. Later on in the hallway, Keely approaches Phil to tell him that she's interested in his tutoring offer and tells him to meet her at a German restaurant later, and then she runs off before the class bell rings. They're at the restaurant and start tutoring, and the two are having a really good time together. Keely is even finally starting to understand algebra. The two, in a spur-of-the-moment decision, even share a German folk dance together. Unfortunately, their fun time is completely ruined when Tia and some other popular kids arrive at the restaurant for an unrelated reason, causing the pair to hide, revealing to Phil that Keely's embarrassed to be seen with him. Realizing the situation, Phil ducks out unseen by the popular kids and lets Keely hang out with her friends. The next day, during the lunch period, Evan Peters was telling Phil about a naughty, improper fraction dream he had the last night when Keely interrupts him with her presence. She tells Phil that she feels really bad about what happened at the restaurant and decides to join them for lunch, firmly cementing their future friendship. Tia, after some convincing, also joins the group at the lunch table. Phil's having a great time with his new friends when Pim grabs him out of the moment and tells him that they're supposedly headed home. Now. The Diffy family all head into the time machine, and they try and get it started, but they realize that it's still broken, and they're going to be stuck here for a little bit longer. This actually makes Phil smile, because he has more time to spend with his new friends, especially Keely. In the B-plot of the episode, Goody Two-Shoes Debbie Berwick volunteers to be the chalk monitor as Chalk keeps going missing in the classroom, leading Pim to challenge her because she has the desire to be better than everyone no matter what the task is. Pim eventually creates a fake sob story about her life, causing all of her classmates to vote for her to be the chalk monitor out of pity. They're envisioning and portraying holograms of their children dressed in different, outfits. Essentially just showing that holograms are normal in the future they're from. Secondly, the schooling system is completely different. it's not scaled by age, because when they're first talking about it, they tell Phil and Pim what grades they're going to be in, and Pim, the younger sister, is upset because she's in a lower ranked grade, and she's upset, and the mom goes, I'm sorry, Pim, in this decade they go by age, implying that in the future they rank school system by intellect or skill. You know what I'm saying? This is school. So the schooling is essentially sitting in a chair.
Well, I was gonna say that's just basically Zoom class. You mentioned that perhaps it's based on the schooling is rank based as opposed to age based. Could it be that he's kind of stupid and so he has to sit in these kind of remedial like VR lessons, and like that's different from his sister who had like smarter schooling? Like maybe she had, I don't know. That's maybe a reach.
In theory, I could agree with you, but he is a math whiz and does like algebra for fun. So he's like canonically
Oh,
very
loser.
advanced for his age, at least for our time period.
Okay, fair enough. Play ball.
Yeah, so in theory, the schooling system's working for him. He just doesn't have any, like, friends, theoretically. Later on in this first episode as well, someone attempts to shake Pim's hand, and Pim doesn't know what to do with it, and then they say, shake it. So she, like, grabs her arm and shakes her arms. And lastly, the thing we see in this episode is Pim is trying to bake a home-baked meal. She's trying to bake brownies, and she can't do it. So Barb pulls out essentially like a whipped cream can, and she like shakes it and like it and fully baked brownies come out with like a cherry on top. And it's also shown that exists for all different kinds of foods. There's like a spaghetti one, there's like a full like meatloaf one. So essentially in this family, at least, nobody really knows how to cook. They have to learn. People don't cook.
Here's another question. I'm gonna be this annoying person who keeps bringing up these like possibly it's one version of a thing from the future. Could that not be like fast food? Like people still cook, but that's just like the fast food variant?
It could be. It very well could be. And it
Like,
could be that
that's frozen
some people know how to cook. It's just, to me, it's strange that neither parentals in this family know how to cook.
Well, maybe they're bums. I don't know. Are they smart?
I don't know. They're smart. They make enough money to rent a time machine to take a vacation.
See, that's also a strange thing. Are we gonna talk about the elephant in the room that you can just rent a time machine in the future?
Yeah, we can definitely do that for sure. We can cross that at any point.
I wonder if the people don't cook thing is because like key soda is a thing. I wonder if everything is just in a can.
I think everything probably is like canned. You know what I mean? It feels very like compressed, like futuristic. Yeah. This episode does a good job of introducing you to our main family as well as introducing you to our supporting cast of characters. First off, going down the list, we have Neil Hackett, portrayed by famous actor JP Manoux. Neil is a teacher, vice principal, and guidance counselor at Phil and Pim's school. He's essentially the dean from Community, just a little Disneyfied and watered down, which is interesting because for the longest time, I thought they were played by the same actor. But Dean Pelton from Community is played by Jim Rash, who is decidedly a completely different person than Neil Hackett over here. You may also remember JP as Stan from Aaron Stone, or as Vice Principal Tolkien from Minutemen. I guess he has a typecast for a vice principal role. Seth Washmer, portrayed by Evan Peters, is Phil's first friend in the modern age who seemingly has a romantic attraction to algebra. There's not a whole lot to his character other than him being the stereotypical nerd who likes math. You may know Evan Peters as Tate Langdon from American Horror Story, or Quicksilver from X-Men Days of Future Past. Tia, portrayed by Brenda Song, is Keely's rich and popular girl best friend, and that's pretty much it. She's basically London Tipton, just less airheaded and a little bit less stupid. You may remember Brenda as London Tipton from The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, or even more notably as Caitlin from hit video game The Quarry. Debbie Berwick, portrayed by Kay Panabaker, is Pim's unreasonably kind and sweet best friend, though Pim would probably describe her as her enemy. We'll be circling back to Debbie later, but you may remember her as Jamie Bartlett in Read It and Weep, or Emily Watson in Life is Rough. And if you're like me, you would have thought you remembered her as Caitlin Snow in The Flash, but that's actually her older sister Danielle Panabaker. This entire time I thought they were the same actress. Am I stupid? Yeah, probably. Kiliana Sarah Teslo, or Keely, portrayed by Ailey Michalka, is a popular girl that has a dorky side. Keely is Phil's best friend, she's bubbly, and a little bit of an airhead sometimes, but overall her character is defined by her big heart and caring attitude towards others. You may recognize her from her band, Allie and AJ, or from several other projects such as Easy A, Cowbells, and iZombie, to name a few. Allie was definitely the breakout star from this show. Lloyd Diffy, portrayed by Craig Anton, is the father of the household, and throughout the show, Lloyd is commonly shown working on the time machine and or worrying about how they're gonna get found out as a family from the future. You may remember him as Mr. Pettis in Lizzie McGuire. Barbara Diffy, portrayed by Lee Sims, is the mother of the family, who has gained an appreciation for her ability to do things for herself instead of everything being automated like it is in the future. Throughout the show, we typically see Barb adapting to the modern century and doing things the way that they're meant to be done in this time period. You may remember her from one of her several one-off characters in several different TV shows that I'm not going to mention right now. There are just too many. Pamela Diffy, or Pim, portrayed by Amy Bruckner, is in the 7th grade and the youngest of her family. She is essentially the evil little sister character akin to Megan from Drake and Josh, though her character type plays up the level of villainy because she's a child from the future and she believes herself to be above everyone from this time period. In the pilot, she refers to people from 2004 as knuckle draggers multiple times. You may remember her as Haley Long from American Dragon, Jake Long. And finally, we have the protagonist and titular character of the show, Phil Diffy, portrayed by Raviv Ullman, then going by Ricky, is a very intelligent guy, but he's kinda dorky and quick to embarrass himself. He's very kind-hearted and genuine, and Phil ends up being very easy to root for throughout the run of the show. You may also remember him as Roscoe from Disney Channel original movie Pixel Perfect. This first look into the year 2121 leaves us with a future where humanity's dependence on technology has increased to such a degree that people of the future don't know how to cook their own food or even socialize in a meaningful way due to the isolated schooling style. I was kind of joking earlier when I said that it's possible that they come from a future where everyone's brains are jacked into the internet, but hey man, that might not be too far off based off of what we were shown in this first episode. Overall, though, I will withhold my judgments until I have more information. Definitely something I'm keeping in mind, though. The next episode we'll be looking at is titled Future Jock. In the opening scene of this episode, Pim cannot be bothered to bring the garbage can like 3 feet to the curb, so instead, she goes inside and grabs a small gadget that she calls a penny missile and attaches it to the side of the garbage can and activates it, launching it into the sky. Elsewhere, Phil is eating lunch at school when he sees a garbage can come crashing down in the middle of the field, and he sees a piece of future technology attached to it. Phil quickly and discreetly gets up and grabs the item and goes to tell his dad later about what happened. Lloyd initially thinks this could be another family from the future until Phil tells him that it was on one of their garbage cans, so Lloyd takes all of their future gadgets and locks them up in the time machine. In other news, Phil is becoming jealous of all the attention the star gymnast is getting at school, though he's mainly just bothered by the attention that Keely's giving him. Phil doesn't know what to do with his upset feelings, and he decides to steal the penny missile from the time machine lockbox. The lock mechanism is his dad's nose, so he creates a prosthetic of his dad's nose and then uses it. It's a little silly and complicated. But at the end of the day, he does get the penny missile, and Phil decides to use it to score him a spot on the gymnastics team. Somehow, this gadget clipped to his sock helps him perform a good bar routine, which is interesting because we've only ever seen this gadget used as a means to propel and launch things. So in theory, it should have only helped his initial jump, but whatever. Upon making the team, Phil's popularity immediately skyrockets, and the original gymnast star fully accepts him as part of the team. Unlike the douchey way that most of these athletes are portrayed, this guy is completely welcoming to Phil. Just before the gymnastics meet is set to start, Pim shows up, revealing that she's stolen the penny missile from Phil as an act of revenge for him snitching on her earlier. Though, after talking to her brother for a little bit, Pim realizes that Phil is only doing all of this as a means to deceive people, to make them think that he is something that he's really not. Pim then gives Phil the penny missile back, claiming that she agrees with those motives. But Phil, hearing his actions described this way, starts to feel guilty. Phil tries to drop out of the meet, but his coach forces him to perform his routine, and so Phil runs and gives it his best, but since the penny missile's on the springboard, it launches him up into the air, and he makes a complete fool out of himself. Later on, after the gymnastics meet is over, Keely goes to check on Phil to see what all of that was about, and Phil reveals to Keely that he joined the gymnastics team to impress her, and while Keely appreciates the gesture, Keely says that she's impressed by a lot of things, including tall buildings. It's just not a reason to get jealous over. The two make up and their friendship continues, ending on a very wholesome moment. Pim says something that made me allude to the fact that they don't have trash cans in the future, because I wrote no trash cans in the future.
What?
Let me play that. It's in the intro. Also, Pim's evil.
Really?
That's like her character trait. She's like an evil villain.
She's just evil.
She has like an evil laugh.
I'd curb stomp that child.
Yeah, she's an asshole.
You went like 3 feet, kid.
No, literally.
Didn't even try.
Oh, this is also showing us our next gadget too.
Maybe she is evil.
I told you. I think it was that. I think it was trash cans are so last century that made me think that they don't have trash cans in the future. But maybe that's a stretch.
Oh, I see. Well, at first I thought it was she was throwing crap on the ground, like it was just gonna throw itself away, but then maybe she is just evil.
No, she's just
I wonder if it's a case
brat.
of, like, if they don't need trash cans, maybe everything just disintegrates eventually.
Yeah, there's no real alternative to no trash cans in the future, so I might do like a question mark.
Or
also,
she's just like timist.
Yeah, true.
I hate old shit.
To be fair, that's also true.
Last year.
In the first episode, when they tell her that she has to go to school in this century, she's upset and she's like, "Oh, I don't want to have to walk around and socialize with these knuckle draggers."
Okay.
I say
All
that
right.
But
normally.
yeah, that penny missile thing that she attached to it, essentially a gadget that can seemingly just be attached to anything, and it'll make the object it's attached to fly off with some type of propulsion system. Later on in the episode, Phil attaches it to his sock to like give himself a very big boosted jump because he wants to join the gymnastics team to impress his friend. And for some reason, with the initial jump, it also makes him like an unreal performer in gymnastics and like really well. Like he does it, he's just fucking good at gymnastics with it on. And then when he takes it off, he's just bad at gymnastics. So I don't know if it has like some other weird situation going on. I think that's just like something silly for the Disney show. I think it's just supposed to help him on the initial jump, but yeah.
Perhaps you could chalk that up to a placebo, perhaps, that he just thinks he's better at gymnastics. Sorry, I don't know what that was.
And there's one other thing that Pim does. She's complaining about washing dishes, and apparently this is how she washed dishes in the future. Ultrasonic laser light.
So that was cleaning?
I guess, right? So like, I don't know. Do
I'm
they
starting
just
to
like
not trust things from her perspective because she's evil?
Well, that was the mom. The mom was like, "Do you remember when we used to clean things with the ultrasonic laser light?"
Yeah, then it cuts to her, which makes me think that maybe she was doing it wrong or something. Like she's disintegrating the dishes at like I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking it, but that seemed a little odd in my thought. Hey, it was coming from like a cool like Himalayan salt lamp. That was cool.
Yeah. In the episode Corner Pocket, Keely is trying out for the cheerleading team, but she does not make it, which is a total bummer. But not for her. Keely comes from a family of cheerleaders, and her mom is a cheerleading super fan. Like, it keeps her going throughout the day in her adult life, at work as like a realtor. Keely's mom shows up at the school to hear about her daughter's results, and Keely lies, telling her that she did in fact make the team. Phil, to cover up for the lie, comes up with the idea to cheer for the school billiards team and tell her mom that the cheer squad is spreading out to every sport to spread cheer to everybody, creating the fraudulent cheer team of Phil, Keely, and Tia. The trio cheers on the billiards match, and Keely's mom gets super into it. She doesn't care what we're cheering for, she just loves cheerleading. This extreme excitement makes Keely realize that she really does not care about cheerleading and is only doing all of this to make her mom's dream come true, not her own. Keely goes over to her mom and admits this, to which her mom tells her that she just wants her to be honest with herself, and that's what'll make her happy. The two hug it out and leave cheerleading in the past, ending the episode on a high note. In the B-plot for the episode, Pim is desperate to find something that Debbie Berwick doesn't like because she seemingly loves everything. After an afternoon of spying on Debbie, Pim sees her reject a pastry that she detects has raisins in it because she scans it with her unnamed handheld device that later we find out is called a wizard. Pim then surrounds Debbie with raisins, causing her to crash out a little bit, and ultimately Pim apologizes seemingly for the first time in her life because she took it a little bit too far. Though Pim claims that she only did it because Debbie's level of happiness is unreachable and it's frustrating to be around. We have only one little gadget piece. I believe the item that Pim is using is called the Wizard, but it's not name dropped in this episode, it's name dropped in a future episode. But she just pulls out a future gadget and uses it and doesn't say anything about it, and we don't really get a name for it. She is spying on her rival because her rival is very happy and loves everything, and Pim can't have that because she's evil. So she wants to find something that she hates. So she finds her rival playing chess with an elderly person in the park, and the elderly person offers her a scone and she refuses it. So she's like, ooh, why did she refuse it? And she found out, like, she scanned the thing and found out the ingredients inside of it. So I'm assuming that the device can scan something and tell you, like, the genetic / like compositional makeup of it, I guess.
Very sick.
She didn't like raisins, by the way. Her rival.
Oh.
A little bit of a spoiler: the wizard can do anything. Like in certain episodes, they don't feel like creating specific gadgets for certain things, so it's just the wizard, and it does anything.
All right, kind of like the sonic screwdriver, but not at all.
I was gonna say the sonic screwdriver.
kind of like an iPhone.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
The fourth episode we have to go over is Say Toe-Mato. Keely excitedly tells Phil about the school field trip coming up where they're going to stomp on tomatoes to make ketchup, which isn't how ketchup's made, but I guess that's what they do in Pickford, California. Phil becomes hesitant about the school trip when Keely tells him that they're gonna have to be barefoot to stomp on the tomatoes. And Phil isn't worried about getting his feet exposed on the internet, he's actually worried because people from the future only have 4 toes on each foot. At home, Phil tells his dad about his conundrum, and Lloyd immediately gets to work building his son fake pinky toes so he can go on the field trip. They make it to the stomping grounds, and all is going well on the trip until Phil's prosthetic toe falls off while stomping around in the tomatoes. The man running the event is about to pick it out of the sauce, and in an effort to save his cover, Phil picks up a tomato and throws it at the man, but he throws it right when he ducks down, and he accidentally hits Keely with the tomato. To which her response is to start a food fight in the tomato pit, leading to the entire group of students to all get kicked out of the facility. Back at the school, while they're waiting in line to be punished by the principal, Keely confronts Phil about his lying the past couple of days, revealing that she found the fake toe, and it doesn't matter to her if he only has 4 toes. She just wants the two of them to be 100% honest with each other. In this moment, Phil reveals to Keely that he's from the future and gives her the whole rundown. Phil says that his dad is paranoid that if they get caught, they would be captured, or worse. I'm assuming he means experimented on, dissected, killed? I don't know. But all Phil really wants is for his best friend to know the truth about him. After hearing all of this, Keely walks away speechless, unsure what to make of it. At home later, Phil tells his dad that he exposed their secret to his friend, and Lloyd's reasonably worried about what's going to happen to them if word gets out. But this is when Keely shows up in the Diffy's yard with a plate of baked goods. She tells Phil that she doesn't care if he's from the future, Kansas, or Looney Town. Their secret is safe with her no matter what. Lloyd, now able to relax, tells Phil that he thinks his friend needs a ride home, while handing him a capsulized version of the aircraft we see them riding in the opening. Phil tosses it to the ground excitedly, making the vehicle appear, and tells Keely that it's called a Skyak, and Keely exclaims, "Oh my god, you really are from the future," meaning in the back of her mind, she really thought that Phil was just crazy and was spouting complete nonsense, and she still wanted to be his best friend. The two fly off into the night sky. In the B-plot, Pym wants to outdo Debbie Berwick at fundraising for Vice Principal Hackett's surgery until it's revealed later in the episode that his surgery is actually just for a hair transplant, and the girls find out and take their donations back for a better cause. It's essentially an aircraft that looks kind of like a jet ski, and you fly through the sky on it, and it's called a Skyak.
Oh, like a sky kayak.
Correct, exactly.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
And it's very cool. It's only like in the opening scene of this episode, but it's a very casual item, and Phil is canonically a freshman in high school, and in another episode we see Pym riding it, so it seems like all ages can ride these unless they're just breaking legislature because they're not in the future anymore, but that's a completely different story that we're going to have to talk about later with some of these other things that we're going to talk about. But that's the Skyak. And another big lore drop we see, everyone in the future has 4 toes.
Okay, can we guess which toe's missing?
Oh,
Go for it.
Pinky.
Correct.
why the pinky?
According to Lloyd, it was useless and it just falls off. So what I wrote down for this, everyone in the future will only have 4 toes on each foot. According to Barb, in 75 years, everyone will lose their pinky toes, making that the year 2079. That means that Lloyd had 5 toes until he was 5 years old and then lost it by some means. Barb experienced the same, but she would have been 3 when this happened.
Is that why Phil is so bad at gymnastics? Because you need your pinky toe for balance?
Ooh, maybe.
Ooh.
It could also be the fact that he's just not a very athletic person.
Yeah, it could also be that.
He does algebra for fun.
He's a fucking Poindexter. I like it's almost like the quirk theory from My Hero Academia.
Oh yeah, like the
people,
extra bone.
Yeah, the extra bone in the toe. Do you think people still, like, some people still have 5 toes and then they get made fun of?
That's essentially the whole like point of this episode. Phil wants to go on a school field trip to make ketchup, so has to step on tomatoes with his bare feet. Not how they make ketchup, by the way.
Yeah, that's not how that works.
But his dad has to make him like a prosthetic for like 5th toe.
Ew.
And he like stomps around in the vat of tomatoes, and it just like falls off.
It's like blood at them.
That's literally what happens. Keely like finds out, and she's just like, I don't care that you only have 4 toes, and then he's just like, no, I'm from the future, and that's like the episode that he tells her.
One idiot.
No, I have 4 toes because I'm from the future.
No, it was actually much more of like a heartfelt moment. He's just like, I don't want to lie to my friends anymore, and I've been lying to Keely all the time and shit like that. So no, it's actually really funny. Keely, like, after learning that, has to process it, and then goes to his house later on. He's like, okay, I'll keep your secret or whatever, and then they pull out the Skyak, and she's like, holy shit, you really are from the future. So that entire time Keely was just perfectly fine, thinking that her friend was mentally like insane.
She's like, yeah, sure, I'll be your friend, you insane person from the future.
Yeah.
Insane photo freak. Ugh.
Yeah. Also during that conversation, we learned that the Diffys on their vacation went to the prehistoric era and then swung by the French Revolution, in Phil's words, before heading home, which is when their time machine broke down in the year 2004. The 5th episode we'll be talking about today is actually the first one on Disney+. It's called Meet the Curtis. The Diffys are woken up in the middle of the night to find a caveman in their house. Upon seeing him, Lloyd theorizes that the caveman probably stowed away in their time machine when they were visiting the prehistoric era. And from now on, for the rest of this episode's plot, the caveman will be treated as a common house pet like a puppy. Phil names him Curtis, and we see a montage of him training and playing fetch together with him. One day, out of nowhere, Curtis shows up at Phil's school, so Phil and Keely have to try and get him out of there unnoticed. A task they fail to do when Curtis bites Vice Principal Hackett's leg. Back at home, the family agrees that they have to get rid of Curtis because he bit someone, much to Phil's dismay. The family drive out to the wilderness to let their caveman run free, in a scene that mimics Air Bud when they throw the basketball into the trees and he chases after it. Curtis runs off into the forest, and before leaving, Lloyd steps into the woods also to go pee. While Lloyd's gone, Curtis comes back to Phil and Keely, and then they use his superior caveman scent tracking to find out where Lloyd's been all this time. They eventually find him, and Curtis saves him from a boar attack. After this heroic act, Phil tells Curtis that he doesn't view him as a pet anymore, but as a real person. In response, Curtis tells Phil his first words, "Bye, Phil." Lloyd has a change of heart and agrees to let Curtis stay in the garage as long as he agrees to lay low. So now Curtis is officially a member of the family. In the B-plot, Pim wants to go to Debbie Berwick's sleepover because she thinks she was the only one not invited out of 25 guests. Pim gets invited by Debbie anyway, and she finds out that there are only 2 kids who accepted the invitation, and they are very nerdy. This makes Pim want to leave and go home, but she can't because Curtis ate the home phone earlier. I was gonna do another little character introduction for Curtis here, but it turns out that he's also played by famous actor JP Manoux, the same actor portraying Neil Hackett. Honestly, this caveman makeup and his acting are really impressive because I had no idea until I got to a future episode where they have Curtis speak normally, and it just sounds exactly like Principal Hackett. All in all, Curtis is a caveman that the Diffy family treat as a pet. He is happy-go-lucky until it's time for him to take a bath. Next up, we have the episode titled Pheromonally Yours. While trying to be polite in the hallway, Phil accidentally wins the affection of his classmate Marla. Marla and Phil walk into their lunch period clearly flirting with each other, and his friends ask him about what's going on here. Phil is completely oblivious and says that they're just gonna go study together later. To which Keely, Tia, and Seth all agree that Marla is clearly into him, Seth even stating that he can see it, and he can never pick up on social cues like that. Later in the day, during their study date, Phil tries to make it very apparent that he was not flirting with her earlier, and he just wants to be friends, but she does not get the message, going as far as to send Phil a squire the next day to make a love decree on her behalf in front of the entire lunch period. Phil goes to his dad for advice, and Lloyd gives him his old DNA scrambler so Phil can make himself look all weird and make Marla disinterested, claiming that his friend used to do it all the time in high school because women were always surrounding him. During his next date, Phil makes his head grow, shrink, and spin around like an owl, claiming it all to be very normal for him, and if she doesn't like it, she should probably leave, 'cause it's not gonna stop. But Marla tells him that she likes Phil for his personality, and still wants to be with him no matter what. And it's played off for laughs here, but this is definitely the closest that they've gotten to just outright revealing their secret to the public. Phil's definitely doing some supernatural shit here, just completely out in the open, and he's not even trying to hide it. Later on, Keely tells Phil that he's a sweet and caring guy, and that he can figure out a way to break up with Marla gently. Phil takes her advice, and he decides to write her a breakup poem. Phil goes to hand it to her during class when a teacher sees him passing notes and makes Phil stand up and read it out loud in front of everyone. Phil delivers his poem, and Marla dumps the teacher's smoothie down Phil's shirt in response, before walking out to the principal's office. After the fact, Keely makes fun of Phil for breaking up with a girl through a poem, claiming he has a lot to learn about girls, and the episode ends there. In the B-plot, Lloyd tells Pim that she needs to find a hobby instead of sitting in front of the TV all day, so at school the next day, Pim threatens her way onto the school band. And the band has a concert coming up, where Debbie Berwick will be singing a solo to accompany the band. And initially, Debbie's very excited to be performing with Pim until she realizes that Pim's lack of skill would just ruin their performance. Debbie tells the composer that he should tell Pim to miss the concert, claiming it's to save her from the embarrassment. After hearing the news, Pim threatens Bradley, the composer, into telling her that it was Debbie's idea. Pim then steals the composer outfit to fill in for him in order to ruin Debbie's performance intentionally. During the performance, Pim forces Debbie to hold a note long enough for a pizza delivery driver to come in and deliver food to Pim, and the crowd loves Debbie for it all the more. This was kind of an interesting B-plot because Pim was actually seemingly interested in the band while she was playing the gong, like she wasn't just being an asshole about it, until Debbie and Bradley conspired against her, which made her villainy come out. But initially, she was just having fun playing the gong. I'm just going to read my notes because I kind of wrote longer notes for this one. Lloyd tells Pim she needs to get a hobby, says he doesn't know what people of this century do for hobbies before suggesting sports or music, implying they don't play sports or make music in the future for fun. Somehow, they're both perfectly entertained watching TV from this century, however. It's an invention called the DNA scrambler. So it's an old-fashioned DNA scrambler, implying it's relatively outdated tech used by Lloyd's old friend when they were younger because Lloyd's friend was a very handsome man, so he used the DNA scrambler on himself to make himself look unappealing so that women would leave him alone some of the time. Lloyd claims to have changed their uncle's lips to look like a fish with this device. Phil uses it to grow his head, shrink his head, make his head like turn around on a swivel like an owl, just like in broad daylight in front of his date, and that's what it does. It makes you look kind of strange.
So,
was it to like impress her or like prove something, or was it to scare her?
It was to get her to break up with him because he didn't know how to do it because he's a nice guy and he didn't want to be like he wasn't trying to impress the girl.
Her?
Yeah, he was like, oh, I'd rather have her think that I'm a weirdo and that my head like will grow 2 sizes and shrink to teeny tiny shrunken head levels and shit.
She's been telling that story to her shrink in 20 years. No one's gonna believe her.
Literally.
She's gonna be like the woman from Jumanji. Theoretically, I can make my head look really big to look like Megamind then.
In theory.
Like Photoshop it in real life.
So true. Actually, yeah, kinda.
So this DNA scrambler comes after the 4-toe episode.
Then why doesn't he just give himself a 4th toe?
I was literally thinking that. Why don't they use the DNA scrambler to...
That's a very good point. Both times, Phil's dad comes up with the solution to first create a prosthetic toe and then give him the DNA scrambler in a future episode. So that is funny.
Yeah, that's silly. All right.
In the episode Milkin It, the school is holding a science fair for inventions, and a smart student named Roger claims that he's won the Invention Expo 3 years in a row and intends to win it again this year. He shows off his invention to Phillin In, a portable changing room, and honestly, this idea sucks. What happens when you have to bend down to put on pants? What happens when a slight breeze hits the curtains while you're changing? You're asking to accidentally get exposed to the world. This is the guy that won 3 years in a row? Must not be some super strong competition. Apparently, Roger's being an asshole to Phil because he's holding a grudge against him for getting a better grade on the last math test, and he tells Phil to demonstrate whatever moronic invention they made. So Phil and Keeley present a voice-activated pudding dispenser, which is leagues more impressive than a curtain with motion capability. But Roger is acting like this is a child's play invention before asking what kind of rudimentary power source it runs on. Phil mockingly tells Roger that their invention runs on the liquid in the fuel bottle before picking the bottle up and drinking directly from it. Good job, Phil. That totally didn't make you look like a robot. Later on at home, Phil is telling his dad about his invention for the expo to Lloyd's delight, until Phil mentions that he built a milk engine as the power source, stating that everyone else was using batteries and gasoline, and he wanted to do something just a little bit different. Lloyd panics upon hearing this, telling Phil that the milk engine won't be invented until 2074, when the Earth runs out of oil. This kind of huge innovation for the world is something that I feel like Phil should probably know about, considering, he's a pretty smart kid. But I guess I can give him a pass considering I don't know what year batteries were invented. But also, why didn't Keeley mention anything about the milk engine before this? She saw Phil drink from the fuel thing. What did she think, he was drinking oil? Like, she knew it was a milk thing. She knew milk engines don't exist. Why didn't she say something about it? Lloyd tells Phil that they need to destroy the machine because if the public sees the milk engine, they're gonna be amazed and want to see his designs, which he doesn't have, and it'll all seem just too suspicious, potentially leading to their identities as future people getting out. So Phil and Keeley come up with a plan to distract the invention security guard with disguises, but it's not going very well until Lloyd shows up, dressed as a federal agent, successfully distracting the guard long enough for the kids to sabotage their own milk engine. The next morning, during presentations, the pudding dispenser explodes and Lloyd shows up to exclaim that a milk engine is ridiculous and could never work. In the B-plot, Pim didn't write a story for her English class, so instead she puts on her Cinespecs and recounts every detail of a movie that she's watching in that moment. This impresses her teacher so much that she enlists Pim to compete in the next creative writing competition. During the competition, Pim tries to use another plagiarized story when her Cinespecs fall off of her face onto the ground and break, leading her to fail miserably. Barb punishes Pim by making her watch romance movies and give book reports on them to her. We have a gadget called the Cinespecs. They're essentially sunglasses you can put on and watch movies in. And for some reason, in the opening scene, the 4D effects of the movie affect the real world. For example, Pim's watching essentially a superhero movie and the explosions are creating real world tremors in her yard that make her mom accidentally cut off the head of a flower or something while she's gardening. But then it doesn't do that later on when she's watching a movie in class, so I guess you can change the settings on that. That's kind of just VR glasses though.
Yeah, pretty much have those.
Later in the episode, we are introduced to something called a milk engine.
Ew, what is that?
Anyone have any guesses why we would need a milk engine?
Because cows don't exist in the future.
I think you're thinking an engine that
milk
makes
fuel?
milk.
A milk-powered engine?
An engine that runs on milk.
Yeah, milk fuel.
I generally thought it was making milk.
Apparently, the Earth runs out of oil in the year 2074, leading to the invention of the milk engine when a scientist puts milk in his rocket-powered roller skates to make them work. And he creates a milk engine.
And it just works.
It just works.
I think he creates the engine to make it work. I don't think he just puts them in an engine. I think he made it himself.
Okay, yeah, it wasn't just he stumbled across the engine and was like, you know what, I'll put in there? Milk.
But yeah, Phil uses a milk engine in his science fair project. And they're like, oh, you can't let them see that.
It's amazing how many gadgets they brought with them on their time travel vacation.
Yeah.
Literally. Well, no, actually, it's stated in this that Phil makes the milk engine. He creates a milk engine of his own in this time period.
Oh.
He says everyone else's projects are using gasoline or batteries. I thought it would be cool to make a little milk engine. So he states that he makes it.
Interesting.
Okay.
Specifically that one. All the other ones I don't have an excuse for. They just brought a lot of shit, I guess.
That was the one time you could call it out and be like, actually.
Actually.
Shocked we still have cows.
Oh, you never said it was cow oil. They just said it was low fat.
Cow oil.
Cow oil, cow milk. I'm tired, guys. I had an overnight.
Too much. Back to the Future. Phil of the Future. Fuck.
Too much Phil. Next up, we have We'll Fix It in Editing, something I'm probably going to be doing a lot of in the next couple of weeks. Phil and Keeley's TV production class is tasked with making a pre-filmed video for the school news. Phil passionately tells the story of a woman who worked in a ketchup factory in 1953 when she almost died from a meteor. He thinks that this is a story that needs to be told, and after hearing his impassioned speech, the teacher and classmates all seem equally on board with this idea. By the way, I looked into it, and as far as I'm aware, this is a completely made-up incident. However, this could be a reference to Anne Hodges in 1954 when she became the first person to be hit by a meteor and survive. She was in her home, though, not working in a factory of any kind. Phil, Keeley, Tia, and Seth all gather as the film crew for this assignment. While filming the reenactment, Keely keeps messing up her lines, much to Phil's frustration. After more than 30 attempts at the scene, Keely seemingly gets her lines right, causing Keely, Seth, and Tia to all celebrate, but Phil interrupts them and points out that Keely said, "Oh my gosh," when she was supposed to say, "Oh my goodness." So now they need to set up and film it all again, and he suggests that Keely go over her lines, causing tension amongst his friends. During filming, Phil and Keely get into an argument, causing Keely and Tia to storm off. And later, while cleaning up the yard, Seth is trying to reason with Phil that he made Keely feel bad. But Phil can't sympathize and goes off about how nothing went the way he was directing it, causing Seth to also leave, so Phil can edit alone. Phil's in his room stressing that he has to finish the project by himself when his dad tells him that he can use his replicator to help him as long as they're in the privacy of their own home. Phil excitedly clones himself and gets to work editing the video, but while trying to work with himself, Phil realizes that he's hard to cooperate with due to his perfectionism. This leads him to understand how he hurt his friend's feelings earlier. At school the next day, Phil notices Keely playing the guitar in the music room and starts to film her practicing. Phil decides to use this footage, as well as a blooper reel from their film day, as his project instead of what he originally planned, accompanied by a heartfelt apology at the end with a touching message about his friendships. All of his friends forgive him, and Keely tells Phil that she was also at fault, unable to remember her lines, and they all make up. In the B-plot, Pim is slacking off in gym class playing a video game while hiding in the bushes, before spraying sweat on herself and pretending to fast walk to the finish line. Her fast walking is so impressive that it lands her a spot on the fast walking team. Someone on the other team finds out that Pim is the new fast walker in town, and they talk shit to her, so now she's fully bought in. Debbie and Pim do some recon on the new rival, and they find out that he is afraid of girls. So during the track meet, Pim has Debbie standing at the finish line, and Pim tells her rival that she's waiting to give him a big kiss if he wins. So he runs off the course, leading to Pim's victory, because apparently she's actually very good at fast walking. Pim is playing an unnamed holographic video game. It's just a video game with a hologram coming out of it, going along with hologram normalcy, I guess. And this is one that could potentially be very problematic with no laws mentioned about it. It's called the replicator. It's a gadget that you can use. You scan a body or an object, and it creates a copy of the scanned person.
Okay.
It's essentially, a cloning technology, and they just kind of use it.
Yeah,
Is it like
Replicator.
to do like boring tasks like chores and things, or?
You can do anything. Phil and Pim use it to create clones to play old folk songs with their dad one day because they don't want to do it anymore. Phil creates copies of himself one time to finish editing a school project, for his video class. Just like whatever you want to use a clone for, you can create a clone of yourself. In the episode Double Trouble, Phil and Barb think that Pim has a crush on a boy because she's making someone named Jerry a school lunch. So at school, Phil uses his Invisi-Spray to follow Pim and find out who Jerry is. While spying, Phil learns that Jerry is actually a girl that's been bullying Pim. So Phil tells Pim that she needs to stand up to her bully because most of the time they're all talk. The next day, Pim gains the confidence to tell her bully off, and Pim's evil villainy comes out a little bit too much, and she sends Jerry off crying. Phil congratulates Pim until the bully comes back with her older brother Myron, who decides to put Phil on his bully list in retaliation. But Phil is sticking to his theory that bullies are all talk, so he does not make Myron the lunch he ordered. So in response, Myron schedules a time in his planner to kick Phil's ass. Desperately trying to avoid a beating, Phil finds out that Myron has a soft spot for bunnies, so he buys him a pet bunny and goes to the meeting spot. Phil tells Myron that the bunny's his as long as he decides to stop being a bully. And this is when the bunny walks out of Phil's arms and falls right out of the window, leading both Phil and Myron to panic. The two boys go running out to check on the bunny, but to everyone else it looks like Myron is chasing down Phil to kick his ass. After seeing this, Pim turns herself invisible with the Invisispray and goes to tackle Myron off of Phil as they're trying to rescue the bunny from the tree it landed in. Phil is able to explain the situation to Pim before she abuses his bully further, and Myron goes off with his new bunny to live his life as a non-bully. Phil and Pim share a moment realizing that they have each other's backs as siblings before Pim sprays her brother with a garden hose. In the B-plot, Curtis is stealing ornaments from the neighbors' lawns, and Lloyd and Curtis have to return them to their yards in the middle of the night. Lloyd eventually realizes that Curtis just wants a friend, that's why he's stealing the garden gnome, so he decides that he's going to spend more time as Curtis's friend. So these two buddies watch 6 Mexican wrestling movies in a row. We have Invisible Spray. Phil calls it Invisispray. It's essentially just like hairspray or spray paint can that you just spray on something and it makes it temporarily invisible. It's not super clarified how you become uninvisible. Maybe you just wash it off, but
take a shower. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like they become uninvisible without washing it off in the show, but it's not stated how that works. Yeah. Also, hologram FaceTime, same deal. Just more hologram normalcy. In the episode Unification Day, Phil finds out that Seth is the bathroom attendant for the 11th grade exclusive bathroom. At lunch, Phil, Keely, and Tia try to tell Seth that the 11th graders are just using him and aren't actually his real friends, but they change their tune very quickly, however, when Seth is able to get them invited to an 11th grade party later that night. Later that day at home, Phil has to have a hard conversation with his father about how he wants to attend a party instead of spending time with his family for Unification Day, a holiday celebrating world peace. Phil is ultimately able to convince his dad, though it disappoints him, and when he and his friends get to the party, there's a grown man working security. The security guard tells them that none of them are on the list, but he lets the girls in anyway. Typical club behavior. Phil and Seth try bribing their way in with $2 bills, which is not very impressive to the bouncer. Shortly after that, Seth is actually let in to deal with a big bathroom emergency, and after checking out the situation, Seth tells the bouncer that he needs some serious plumbing equipment to handle what's going on in there. So the bouncer tells Phil that he'll let him into the party if he gets the equipment that Seth needs. Phil scurries off and goes home to grab some tools out of the shed when he runs into his dad, and he offers to play a game of laser squash with him, seeing that both of their nights aren't going super well. The two have a great time bonding as father and son over a futuristic sport that I've never heard of. After a few rounds of play, Lloyd tells Phil that he should get back to his friends, and Phil grabs the plumbing stuff to head out. When Phil arrives back at the party, he drops off the materials but tells his friends that he's gonna head home instead and spend some time with his family. Keely privately asks him why he's gonna leave, and he says that he was having such a good time playing laser squash with his dad, and he realized that he wants to spend some time with his family on this special holiday. Keely says she understands, but just that she's gonna miss spending time with him that night. So Phil invites her to come over and have a home-cooked meal with his family. Keely and the Diffy family have a nice dinner of a giant Unification Day meatloaf. In the B-plot, Pim needs to bring in a home-cooked meal for cooking class, and while at home struggling to cook, she ends up using spray meatloaf instead, and Pim throws a barely used can in the trash, missing the target completely. The can falls to the ground, breaking open, spilling the liquid everywhere. So later on, when Pim enters the kitchen, she sees a giant room-sized meatloaf, like taking up the entire space of the kitchen. And yeah, that's the giant meatloaf they eat for dinner later. Alright, this next one has some very big lore implications, okay? The title of the episode is called Unification Day. What do you think Unification Day is?
It's when all the countries of the world came together in the future.
I'm happy to say you got it exactly right. Yes, so Unification Day, in approximately 90 years, 2094, all of the countries in the world will unify, creating world peace. Everyone celebrates world peace coming about, creating the holiday Unification Day. And it is essentially just like a replacement for Christmas, it seems like.
What?
Yeah, because they
Hold on.
all of
No,
a lot of this
wait a
a lot of
second.
it's not stated that they don't have Christmas, but a lot of the theming of the holiday is very Christmas-esque. Apparently on this, I'm just gonna read my notes and then see if I answer my own questions. Apparently on this holiday, you greet people by saying "Got peace" and then their name, and then they reply by saying "You betcha" and their name. So if I was saying Happy Unification Day to Joey, I would say "Got peace, Joey," and Joey would say
Betcha, Devin.
yeah.
That's interesting.
Nice. I feel like I'm there.
Yeah.
Like I'm
In this
future.
episode, there's more. This is where more spray food is introduced. So they have like a meatloaf. They have spaghetti. They have all types of stuff.
Meatloaf.
It's also we're given a little game called laser squash. It's essentially wall ball.
Is that just where you like throw the ball on the wall and the other person has to hit it back on the wall?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
Like squash without the racket.
I don't even know what squash is.
Yeah, I don't know what squash
It's
is either.
ball, but with rackets.
Oh, so then,
The ball.
yes,
different.
it's laser squash. It's squash with a laser ball.
I'm excited.
Damn, did Phil just tell his dad he was gonna give him a little crop duster? That's crazy.
I was gonna say that.
I think that might have been what they said.
This is laser squash.
It was literally that prop took them like 2 minutes to make. They got like baking gloves from the kitchen and then like a cardboard circle.
Yeah.
That's fair, yeah. Alright, that was a pretty sweet montage. Now that we've been talking about Phil of the Future for quite some time, it's time for a little bit of a halftime break where I will be interviewing the actor who plays Curtis the Caveman and Vice Principal Neil Hackett, JP Manoux. I'm here with famous actor JP Manoux. If you haven't seen Phil of the Future, you've probably seen him make an appearance in one of your favorite shows or movies. He shows up all over the place. Thank you again for joining me here today.
Thank you.
Of
The
course.
pleasure. I don't always have a Disney project in the background.
Aaron
that actually
Stone,
fell
right?
off the hook on the wall the other day. My daughter, my 2.5-year-old, walked by it, and I'm glad it didn't land on her. But yeah, all the glass broke out of it. I gotta figure out how to fix that one. But that was what was after Phil of the Future.
Yeah.
Was Aaron Stone
That
on
was-
Disney XD.
That was a tiny bit after my time. I think I saw the commercials and promos for it, but I don't know if I've ever fully seen an episode of Aaron Stone specifically.
And it's not on Disney Plus. Like, I think you have every now and then I'll get a residual check for like $2. So somebody in Australia or somewhere is watching it.
Yeah, someone's buying it.
But that was when they realized like all of Disney Channel was becoming girls who also were somehow pop stars. And they were worried the boys weren't watching anymore. And so they launched this whole other channel. It was all going to be like robots and aliens and things we think boys like.
So yeah, in preparation for talking with you today, I was looking through your kind of television and film appearances, and I noticed how many different projects you've been included in. Obvious examples are that one episode of How I Met Your Mother, Scrubs, Grey's Anatomy. You even were the doppelganger for the dean in Community for a little while, just to name a couple.
The Dino-ganger doppelganger?
Doppelganger, yeah. I was wondering what it's like getting to work in so many different kind of like filming environments and different directors, different crews type of thing.
At this point, looking back on my career, like I really appreciate how fortunate I've been to do so many different things. And to every now and then have an opportunity that comes directly because of something you did before. So some of the things you mentioned there, like the New Year's Eve episode in the limo where I'm not Moby.
Yeah.
That was because like I had worked on Just Shoot Me, a multicam sitcom that had been directed by the same woman, and she knew me and was like, oh yeah, there's a guy. So like very rare, as much as I have worked, I haven't enjoyed being hired directly very often, but that was one that happened. And then when Community happened, it was because I actually knew Jim Rash and knew Dan Harmon. And I think they had originally intended maybe to do the Parent Trap thing where Jim would play both parts. And maybe one with glasses and one without, I don't know, whatever they were going to do. But because they both knew me and because I had done the episode of How I Met Your Mother, they were like, or we could just get JP because we throw glasses on him and he looks a lot like Jim. Now I actually need the glasses. But so yeah, those were. I didn't set out to be a Moby impersonator or a Jim Rash doppelganger, but yeah, those people liked working with me before. I looked the part, and the real Moby was not available, I guess, so I lucked into
Sure.
those jobs.
Very cool.
But they're very different. Like, multi-camera sitcom like Just Shoot Me and How I Met Your Mother, which even though they didn't have a live audience, it was shot as if there was a live audience. And then they would show the finished episodes to a live audience and record their laughs. So it was like genuine responses to the show, just like old school multicam sitcoms. They just weren't people there. Anyway, that experience is like a 5-day week.
Oh,
That's like putting on a farce. It's like doing theater, entrances and exits, and like snap your line, but don't move because the camera's still on you, and punctuate your exit with
yeah. It's like we're anticipating a
physicality.
reaction here, so hold for a second.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Or you elicit it. You like you
Right.
hopefully you perform it in a way that it becomes kind of musical.
Yeah.
It's comedy theater. Whereas the way they would shoot Community, which is brilliant, but it's like a movie. It's single camera, a lot of very specific setups and reveals and things like that. And it's silent on set when you're shooting, just trusting that there will be laughs where you think they're going to be later. I like both of those experiences, but the most fun is probably the one that's the closest to doing theater. Like
Yeah.
multicam sitcom
For sure.
is great.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Kind of shifting over to some Phil questions. Almost every episode of Phil of the Future introduces like at least one new piece of technology from 2121. They can create clones of themselves with the replicator, make meals instantly
Right.
with food spray cans, fly through the sky in the Skyak. From the ones you remember, what gadget from the show would you most like to see become a real invention?
Well, I tell you, like the Skyak is basically here. I mean, we have drones all around,
Yeah,
and
true.
there have been a bunch of startup companies over the last few years that have tried to figure out like how are we going to do basically flying cars. And it seems like the closest thing to happening is going to be like basically just a big drone,
Yeah.
like big, hover you, move you, drop you where you need to be, as if
Yeah.
you're a human package. So like that, I don't even have to look forward to because it's already here,
Right, it's
basically.
like in development. I didn't even think about
Yeah,
the connection between that and drones. That makes a lot of sense, actually.
yeah. Um, but yeah, when we were filming the show in 2004, 2005, like
Yeah.
yeah, that still seemed pretty far away. Um, Especially, and now that we've heard like the government has declassified so many things about like military pilots actually witnessing UFOs they still haven't identified, like, oh, it's
It's
all
like,
very real.
whoa, yeah.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I liked when they would. It's in the title sequence, I think, too, where they sort of like just scan themselves and change, their appearance.
Definitely.
That would be very cool. Boy, I'd have to go back and look at all the little gadgets or all the things that the wizard did.
Yeah. I
Um,
was
uh,
noticing just how much the wizard did. Like, at a certain point, they're like, well, let's not make a new gadget. Let's just make the wizard do it. Like, because like, it
sure.
does everything. It's crazy.
And it seemed a little weird. Like, it did have to remember, did Phil have a wizard and Pim didn't?
I think,
Like,
I think
somehow Phil had more ability to do things than it seemed like Pim could.
I think there were some episodes where Pim also had a wizard because I
Mhm.
went back because you directed Where's the Wizard, I believe.
Yes,
So I
yeah.
went
And
I
it
went
felt like there was only one and I had
right.
it. Like,
I went
right.
back in that episode. I haven't made it to that point in my rewatch yet, but
Yeah.
Phil loses his and asks Pim to like track and find his via like a function on her wizard. So I think
Okay.
maybe like they just don't show her with it as much, but I think they all have
Yeah.
like their own individual one, like a little iPhone or something.
Also, Pim's might have been taken away from her a few times. Like,
Yeah,
you take your phone away from your kid.
accurate.
Um, Yeah, and another thing about like it's here now. There's so many things about the wizard that it's like, oh, your smartphone kind of this kind of does a lot of that stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Um. Yeah. That was very cool. Those
Very cool.
the imagining of tech for teens and having it all like be real. But ultimately, I mean, the time machine itself
Of
is the
course.
thing. Like that would be. We all want to go back and either revisit our favorite moments or right those wrongs that
Right.
we remember, get a second chance.
Yeah.
That'd be terrific. That's not here yet,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Sort of piggybacking off of that time machine, if there was a point in time that you could visit if you had a time machine, is there something that like immediately comes to mind where you'd like to go?
I mean, I loved college. Like
Yeah.
I went to a university where there were so many at that time, so many creative, funny, smart people that I got to collaborate with making theater, sketch shows, improv shows, and I grew up in Santa Barbara, California, and went to school just north of Chicago, and it was a real mix of balance of like kids from the East Coast, kids from the West Coast, and then these Midwesterners, and I loved those years, and probably specifically my junior year of college when I was 20, I think was probably like my favorite as far as feeling like everything that we kind of wanted to do, we tried to make happen, and no one stopped us until it was too late. Like that was great.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's also great when you don't know enough about the likelihood of things to fall apart, or I don't want to say fail because you learn something from every experience.
Sure.
But that was a time that I remember feeling the most fearless. Of course, there's so many times in your life, so many years, days you'd like to go back to and revisit, but and health-wise, I think you and your audience are too young to worry about this. But when you get older, you kind of look back on those days when your back didn't hurt,
Sure.
or you
Yeah.
didn't have that crick in your neck or whatever. It would be nice to revisit some of that. Anyway, not to depress everyone in the audience. You will get old. I apologize.
Even I'm at like still a young age, but even at like 27, and some days I wake up and like, ooh, my back doesn't feel the way it did 5 years ago. So I get like definitely anticipating all that.
Yeah. So do yoga, stretch,
Right.
everybody eat right. Your body will thank you for it later.
Perfect.
Until we can go back in time.
Yeah.
Actually, going back in time then would suck because
You just get to
you
watch
might go back
yourself be
as
young.
your old self and like wish you were that other young guy.
It's like,
You want to
damn, I
actually
really
like,
did have a good body back then.
You want to literally be that guy again. So actually, what I want to do is I want to go back in time, switch
Yeah.
to be the young me, and then come forward and know everything I know.
Yeah, use
That'd
the
be great.
wizard to body swap with your former self or whatever.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
That we did. Did we do well, we did episodes like that too. We did. I know there's one where Keely zaps herself into her like 30-year-old version.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah,
then
the
I go on a-
de-ager. You can change your age with it.
And they end up making Phil like 80 years old.
Yeah, he's like an
And-
80-year-old
and,
baseball
uh,
player.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I go on a date with Keely, and then they have to like talk me out of it.
Yeah.
Something like that. But
Yeah.
mostly that's right. I remember Mr. Hackett was very depressed in that
Yeah.
episode.
They helped Mr. Hackett get his confidence back. He got his girlfriend back that
Oh,
episode.
he got dumped by his girlfriend. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we played with aging, and they definitely didn't they turn their grandfather into a baby or something like,
Something
or they
like
met
that.
a baby that
Or
would end
s-
up being their grandfather later?
I think there's an episode where Phil meets a high school student that is his great grandfather, and he's trying not to interact with
right,
him.
because it's like 500 years, so it has to be way
Right.
8 generations earlier or whatever.
Yeah,
But yeah,
crazy.
that's right. That might be one of the very last episodes, I think.
I think it is like one of the like second to last episode.
It's only 2 seasons, but yeah, we covered a lot of ground in those 2 seasons.
Right.
Yeah.
No, yeah, they're
Not
yeah.
that we don't need more. We need more seasons. is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Yes. So hold on, I wrote down my questions. I'm finding one. Yeah. So that kind of
Or I could ask you some questions too.
please,
I
if you
mean,
want.
did you watch the series when it first came out?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And which episodes do you remember kind of without having to think too hard? Or which moments?
I think before even rewatching it, the first one that came to mind was the one with the great grandpa, because they both like fold their pizza the same way, and that's how he kind of realizes it. And it's
really
like
cute. Yeah,
I just
neat
remember
moment.
that whole thing. And then there's the last episode of season 1 I remember a lot with Orlando Brown, I believe, playing Phil's friend from the future that comes back in time, and he's like a prankster and he's just causing problems. He turns like Phil into a statue. Those were like the first 2 that stood out to me for sure.
It still maybe realizes he likes his friends from this time period more
Yeah,
than the ones from before. Yeah.
exactly.
The I think I mentioned you before when we were chatting that the episode Dinner Time I
Yes.
remember being a really good standalone episode because it's like pretty much all at the Diffy's house, people coming in and out of doors and hopping through time and like
Yes.
Curtis comes back as a Shakespearean at one point
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff.
so
Like, yeah,
fun. That episode is a
that
lot
was
of fun. There's like Neil Hackett kind of like onto them, but he thinks they're aliens, I
right.
think. But he's like, I'm gonna call the
Yes, right.
FBI. He pulls out his phone and is
And then
like,
that happens a lot in Where's the Wizard? Then it's all
yeah,
about aliens.
100%, yeah. But yeah, with all those interesting, crazy concepts for all those episodes, I guess I was gonna ask you the same question. Are there any episodes that stand out super specifically to you when you're thinking back about the show?
Yeah, I mean, the one we just mentioned, Dinner Time, I remember a lot about shooting it, about filming it. Of course, the episode I directed, like, I can't remember me physically as an actor in it because my head was all over the place. Um, but as a performer, being on set during that episode was really fun because I had to keep switching in and out of the Curtis, makeup and look. And because it was always fun when we got to do, farce type comedy with Craig Anton and Lisa Sims, so like
Yeah.
they do they in that episode do Phil and Keely replace their
Yes.
parents too? Yeah,
Yeah, because their
so
parents get
it's
sucked into the time warp and they're like
right.
pretending to be
So you
Lloyd and
have the
Barb.
actors, Craig Anton and Lisa Sims, acting like
Phil and
Ravi
Keeley
Malin and
playing.
Ali Michalka as those characters, pretending to be them.
It's
Like,
like
yeah,
three
all those
levels
layers.
removed.
Yeah,
um,
that one was super super fun. And yeah, it was. I mean, we shot all that stuff on this, nondescript studio. It's called Occidental Studios, and I think it was being sold recently, so I don't know if it even exists anymore. But it wasn't like being on a big Hollywood studio lot, with big sound stages and stuff where you can control everything. Everything we would have to like pause if there was a helicopter overhead and things
yeah.
like that, even if we were indoors. But it really was. It was like going to camp. For 2 years we got to go and like have a lot of fun making episodes that we trusted were going to be liked, that we thought people would dig. But because it was single camera, shot like a film, you don't have an actual audience there other than the crew, and if you could make them laugh, great, then you feel pretty good about what you're doing. And so that it was especially delightful to have a good time on set doing comedy and then later see it all cut together with special effects and music and things and be like, oh wow, it's even better than I expected.
Yeah, like
So
that was a lot of fun and it turned out really good.
yeah, and there were a lot of episodes I remember having that feeling about.
Definitely. That's awesome. That's like probably
Yeah.
like the best way to walk away from an episode, I
Yeah.
feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for this video that I'm making about Phil of the Future, my kind of main subject of it is like I'm trying to find every little like tiny detail that they mention about the future that like they give
Okay.
us, and like some of them are like completely joke throwaway lines, but I'm just like, well, they said it and that exists in 2121. So
Right.
for example, in the episode Dinner Time, there's a scene where Phil like makes a joke at Lloyd's expense, and Lloyd reminds Phil that stand-up comedy is outlawed because of the heckler revolt in the year 2038. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
wondering, if you were to think ahead 95 years into the future, what do you think would like the world of 2121 would look like? Not necessarily based
I
off of
mean,
the show, but just in general.
it would be great if some of the things like Unification Day like
Right.
came true and stuff. These days, it doesn't really seem like we're racing toward that utopian future. But I'm trying to think of other. You know what? I don't think will happen. Where things like a future shopping mall, a future like places where people went that were like sort of neon and had gadgets everywhere and stuff. I think when we were doing the show, it's more fun to have actors in a physical space doing stuff. But really, like all the virtual reality stuff is much more likely and is happening now.
Yeah.
I am a little surprised that like uh, virtual reality goggles and things that like Apple and Google and people keep trying to come up with, like they still aren't really catching
Yeah.
on
It's not like
the way
landing.
they thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe the future will be still physically experiential.
True.
Um, I'm trying to remember things that were actually referenced in the show though, like that. Like, well, one of my favorite one is when they talk about like the Diffy law, or because of the Diffy's law. It's something like that, where like time travel has basically been outlawed because of them.
Oh, really? I don't think I
But
made
yeah,
it that to that point yet.
there's I don't know if it's in the last episode,
Sure.
but it may be even referenced earlier. But I always liked that like when Lloyd or somebody got to the future and came back, they were like, "You guys,
We're
like
not doing that anymore.
we screwed everything up." Like,
Oh, that's funny.
I thought that was pretty elegant and consistent with so many time travel stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of related to that last episode too. In the last scene of the show, the Diffys are like seen turning the time machine around because they forgot Curtis in like their living room, and it's
Talk about a
implied,
cliffhanger.
right? And it's implied that
Yeah.
they're bringing Curtis to the future with them. Can you give me like a "Where are they now" segment for Curtis? What do you think happened to him after that? After the show, do you think he's like adapting to the future? What's going on with him?
So I mean, I they knew they couldn't leave him there. Like
Yeah, maybe they brought
they
him
all go
back.
like, uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. So we get the sense like, oh, they're gonna go back. They didn't, I don't think they said like we only have enough time travel
Sure,
juice to like go one direction. So I always thought they were gonna go back, get Curtis, and bring him back to the
that
past,
makes sense.
back to his time, which I think they had tried to do once before or thought about doing once before. Um, so I never pictured them bringing Curtis to the future.
Okay, yeah.
But I mean, he seemed to handle the transition to 2004 pretty well. I'm sure he'd handle the 25th century or wherever they were headed.
Alrighty. So,
Were they only? This is so
hmm?
embarrassing. Like it's 2121
Yeah.
productions that made the show, but I can't remember what the exact year was the Diffys
I think
came
it,
from.
I think it was year 2121.
Okay, so it's like 100 years in the future.
Yeah.
It's not 500 years or whatever. Yeah. Well, that's nothing for Curtis. I mean, he
Yeah.
made a bigger leap from his
That
time
is true.
to
It was a much
yeah
bigger. Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
present of the show.
That's a fair point. Um
Yeah.
in both Phil of the Future and the Disney Channel original movie Minutemen, you play a high school vice principal that was suspicious of his students that were up to various time
Yeah.
traveling shenanigans. Is it
Apparently, I have a
possible?
type.
Yeah, is it possible that Vice Principal Tolkien was a reference to Vice Principal Hackett, or was that just kind of a coincidence?
I think it was a reference to the movie Back to the Future
Oh, okay.
because the actor, if I'm not mistaken, got to look this up on IMDb. The actor who plays the principal at the school, I think, is James Tolkan, Tolkan. I think that's the last
Oh,
name of the actual actor who played
gotcha.
that character. So I think when Minutemen was written, they were probably thinking about the movie Back to the Future more than they were thinking about Phil of the Future. And it just worked out where I was available and they knew that I could do that type of character. So I fell into it. But I
Awesome.
know when they were making Minutemen, or when they were writing Minutemen and when they were casting Minutemen, they weren't thinking of me at the time.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So probably more of a coincidence then that those were kind of
Yeah.
like the same guy a little bit.
I mean, it may be that they had somebody else too who, was unavailable, and then they were like, "We need you in Salt Lake City to shoot
Sure.
this movie in 2 weeks." Because I do remember it happening pretty quickly. I'm really glad it did because I like that movie,
Yeah.
and I especially enjoyed working with Nicholas Braun, who everybody got to know later from Succession.
Right.
But even as a teen on that show, like you knew this kid was going places. He was
Yeah.
terrific.
That's awesome.
Not a knock on any of the other
Of
actors
course.
in the show. They're all great. But I remember like hanging out and doing bits with Nicholas
That's a cool.
a lot when we were
That's
making
fun.
that movie. It was fun. Yeah.
That's a lot of fun. Um, Sort of one of my last questions to round out here was there are so many TV show reboots nowadays, Raven's Home, Wizards Beyond, Waverly Place, iCarly.
Yeah.
If you were tasked with pitching a Phil of the Future reboot or sequel series, what would be the first idea that pops in your head?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Devin, because yeah, certainly watching so many Disney properties get rebooted or revisited, and loving my memories of working on Phil of the Future. Like it seems like a no-brainer to give it a shot. At least a Phil of the Future movie that we never got. You know, we did 2 seasons. We left everybody with this incredible cliffhanger, and then that was it. We never, paid that off. We made way for Hannah Montana.
Yeah.
So I think at the very least, a Phil of the Future movie. And I do have an idea or two, and there may be some pages that exist.
Yeah.
But the kind of thing that like you can only do if the powers that be at Disney Channel like want to revisit it.
Of course.
And so that's where I keep hoping the algorithm will put episodes of our show on the homepage at Disney Plus. Like more people like yourself go, hey, I really like that show. Hey,
Yeah.
where would those people be, 24, 20, however many years later?
Right.
So yeah, I would tell you that my concept is it starts with a movie. There may be reason to have a series come grow out of that. But I've talked to Raviv and Ali about it, and their game. All of us have families now of our own, so it's a different perspective on what time travel and nostalgia and everything is.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
and also I think a big thing, spoiler alert, would be the fact that like these might never have existed if a certain somebody hadn't found the wizard when he did. So
I see.
yeah,
Very cool.
perhaps Mr. Hackett becomes a Steve Jobs type.
Very fun.
And
Yeah.
and the world changed because of it. So we'll see.
Very cool. Yeah, I asked my fiance the same question, and she was like, maybe Phil, like, and his family, like, have to now go, like, live in the future. I'm like, well, they're from the future. So I kind of piggybacked off of that, and I was like, maybe after the show ends, Phil settles down in the modern age with Keeley and starts a family, and then, like, Pim gets in some type of trouble, and then now they're forced to live in the future, and, like, it's kind of reverse of the format. They have to, like, adapt to future world.
Except, when I think about it, and what made the original series so charming, it wasn't that we had a show about kids in the future, in our future. It was about kids from the future being in our time, And so I think that would probably be a rule I would want to adhere to. It would be like,
definitely, yeah.
I think we'd want it to be in, 2026.
Yeah.
And we'd figure out how to justify that. Either,
of course,
maybe they never, once they came back for Curtis, the time machine broke down again, and they never went anywhere, and that would just explain why all of us are 20 some years older.
Of course.
But yeah, there's a lot of ways we could go with it.
Yeah, I feel like it's a good concept for a show that you could go so many different avenues to like come back to it. Yeah, for sure.
And Disney and Marvel have certainly hit us over the head with multiverses. Of course, so there's always the possibility that all of these things happen in the same story.
Definitely. I just want to thank you so much again for your time. It was super nice getting to talk to you. I just wanted to give you the floor if there was something I didn't mention that you wanted to talk about, or if there are like any upcoming projects that we should be on the lookout for, or whatever you feel like saying,
Thank you so much. First and foremost, thank you for being you and all the other yous that are out there that remember this show fondly and keep us alive in your hearts and minds and every time you go to Disney Plus and fire up an old episode and watch it again. Thank you. Yeah, right now, like ever since the pandemic, we actors have been self-taping really, and so it's not a lot of driving around Hollywood. I'm always putting my phone on this thing and shooting little auditions. These days, it's more weirdos and psychos on like procedural cop shows and things like that.
Sure.
I don't have an episode of something that's about to come out, but yeah, you might see my face in a couple of things later this summer. Unfortunately, those had NDAs, and I'm not allowed to talk about them. But that certainly makes it sound like they're very special and very cool. Even though you really will have to not blink if you want to see me.
Yeah. We'll be on the lookout though for your face and anything I'm watching, because I feel like you have a chance to pop up in just about anything.
You'll recognize me if you see me. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you again so much for your time. All right, we've been talking about Phil of the Future for about an hour and a half now, and I thought it would be a fun idea to continue this little halftime break and take a little arts and crafts break while I attempt to make my version of the Phil of the Future jacket, the cool blue one. So yeah, I guess let's see how that goes. This is the jacket I purchased. This is the jacket in question for Phil. I bought it ahead of time because I couldn't find it at the store. Probably I didn't check. I almost forgot the most important part of this video. I was not wearing the glasses for the first portion of this. I'm wearing these glasses.
You look futuristic. That's so cool.
I've been wearing these glasses in the video. Before we get, is it dead? It's fucking dead.
We don't need Phil trivia.
I need Phil trivia. It's important.
We don't need it.
No.
It's okay.
Well, we'll get Phil trivia in a second. He is in here. You can join. You can stand right over there. You can do whatever you need to do.
Do some applause now.
Woo!
Let's go.
So I think maybe we could start with the name, with like the nameplate, because they have the barcode and then the last name. I'm so excited for the 80 of you who watched this video.
Thank you.
When this video hits 80 viewers,
Something will happen.
someone contact me.
Alright, if this video gets 80 views, we'll make another Phil in the Future video. Here's some Phil trivia. Phil the Future is played by some guy.
Ricky Ullman.
Ricky Ullman. He's not actually from the future.
He's from,
and Devin, you can put it up on the screen, North Carolina.
Oh, like Good Mythical Morning.
He and Good Mythical Morning are both from North Carolina.
They grew up in the same high school.
They went to the same high school. Here's a picture of them together. Devin's not going to edit that photo.
They're right there. They're all right there.
They're right there. He's showing me what looks like a
This
novel.
is my master document.
This is his master document that looks like a novel. And these are all Phil facts, so you're for real.
Technically, this entire video is Phil facts.
I think
it died.
Thank God. You got spared from that.
Intersplice me after the fact, recording a Phil fact.
And here's Devin now with a Phil fact.
Here's Phil fact number 1.
Here, we got Devin from the future to come give us a Phil
I didn't research for no reason. Put it in right here. Did you know the high school that Phil attends is H.G. Wells High School, a reference to famous author of The Time Machine? What? Okay, pitch me a reboot of Phil of the Future. You know the general premise of the show, and the gadgets they use in season 1, and some of the notes I took. Pitch me a rerun of Phil of the Future for now.
Philip from Hulu, he's on a vacation with his family, and they go back to the year 2025. And in this future world that they're coming from, their time machine breaks. That's the premise. And then he makes friends in this timeline. Phil is a quirky, funny 15-year-old boy. What do you think?
So is it a new Phil?
It's a reboot, so it's like the old Phil doesn't exist.
Oh, so completely different, like...
They're just remaking it.
Oh.
Like it's like they rebooted it.
Okay.
It's not the same universe. What do you want me to pitch you, like a sequel series in the same universe?
I have a question.
I don't care.
In the reboot that you pitched me,
Yeah.
does the mom have a detachable head?
I'm guessing you guessed this because she does in the original series. I'm gonna say yes, she does.
No, I'm not asking that because she has in the original series. I'm asking that because
She should have had that.
Phil fact number 2. In the original concept of the show, that Mom Barb had a detachable head because she apparently had a whale accident, a whale watching accident, a whale related accident where her body became inoperable, potentially eaten, and only her head remained, leading her husband Lloyd to get her a like artificial body. And there is a version of the theme song where actress Lise Sims has a detached head and she takes it off of her own body and places it on the table. Play the theme song clip right here.
Yeah, she does do that. This is worse than the time Devin gave us Phil fact number 5.
How did you like that Phil fact? Did you know that Disney Channel president Gary Marsh was quoted as saying greenlighting Phil of the Future was one of the biggest mistakes the channel has ever made? It's a little harsh. So thank you for joining me until this moment.
I'm so glad we did this.
And we have the jacket. We have a rectangle being put on here.
It's not done, Jack.
We have the fabric cut out, and I'll be back here again, probably by myself, to attach the fabrics. And let's round out this segment with another Phil fact.
Thank you.
Did you know that in the pilot script for Phil of the Future, the main character was actually a girl, and it was going to be called Girl from the Future, but Disney Channel felt they needed a show featuring a male lead. Alright guys, I am back here in the living room area with the jacket set up. This time, I'm by my lonesome. It did not dry, it's just the jacket still. Yeah, so this time I'm just going to be using Gorilla Glue for it, and then I'm going to hope that it stays, I guess. I'm going to leave it there for a little while. This is Cosmo. What's up? Dog debut on the channel, maybe? You want to come in? Want to say hi? What's up, buddy? When I talk into my microphone and he's not in the room to see me, he thinks that I'm greeting someone. So he comes and says, hey. It'll be like a boom. It'll be like a boom mic above us. We won't even notice it. You can't go through. You can't go through. You go. You go. And he's out of there, just like that. I'm taking this. I'm going to glue it and I'm going to fold it in half. So it's a little bit thicker of a shoulder pad kind of design. And we're going to see if that works out for us here. That also didn't work, so we are once again pivoting. Alright. That's so bad. That is not good. You know, I think I like this idea a little bit better than the other one anyway, just because it feels more me if it's gonna look stupid. Yeah? Can't make a high quality jacket when I'm making low quality videos. I hope this little process is kind of a peek behind the curtains of how I make these videos. It's very haphazardly. It's not at all planned ahead. And you know, if this isn't your first video, I'm sure you probably already knew that. It's not like a big secret or anything. I do kind of fly off the cuff and just do shit. However, I felt like doing it sometimes. For better or worse, I'm surprised some of those videos have as many views as they do. But thank you guys for that. How do you guys like my super scuffed Phil of the Future jacket? Anyways, hopping right back into it, we have Phil of the Future episode 11, Your Cheatin' Heart. In this episode, Phil and Keely are performing a scene together for drama class, which attracts the attention of a cute boy named Tanner. And Tanner is so intrigued with Keely that he asks her to perform the balcony scene from Romeo and Juliet with him, to which she excitedly agrees. Immediately following this exchange, however, Tanner gets a phone call from someone he clearly cares a lot about, but to dispel any worries, he tells Keely and Phil that the call was from an 8-year-old in Bulgaria that he's tutoring. An absolutely insane, crazy lie to pull out of your ass. That was the first thing you thought of. Frankly, though, he could have said anything here and gotten away with it because Keely is completely smitten by him. At some point in this episode, Tanner puts his arm around Keely and she's thinking that she might have her first ever boyfriend. During a session of after-school scene work, a girl named Darcy walks into the room asking if Tanner's there, and when she finds out that he's not present, she asks the teacher to tell him that she stopped by to see him. Phil is a little bit suspicious of this encounter, so he pulls out his wizard and scans a poster of Tanner that's hanging up at the school for some reason. He uses this scan to change his form into Tanner so that he can go and find out some intel from this Darcy girl. Darcy sees Phil disguised as her boyfriend and talks to him about her and Tanner's potential skiing plans before kissing him goodbye. Darcy even remarks that he's gotten better at kissing, meaning Phil's a Giga Chad and Tanner is an Omega nerd. To this, Phil is thrilled to learn that he's a good kisser, but he's also pretty devastated to learn that Tanner is flirting with Keely while he already has another girlfriend. And Phil tries to communicate this to Keely, that Tanner is just not a great guy, but in response, Keely tells Phil that he's never even liked Tanner in the first place, and she's upset that he can't even try to support her before she storms off. Later on, Keely and Tanner are performing their scene when Darcy walks into the room once again, telling Tanner that they can officially go on their skiing trip. She got permission from her parents. And then she gives him a kiss, which completely blows his cover in front of Keely. And when he walks back on stage, Tanner shows just how despicable he really is by saying,
Is this gonna be weird for you? Because I don't think we ever said we were exclusive or anything.
Wow. Keely puts on a brave face for the rest of the scene, but then she storms off in humiliation when it's finished. Phil leaves to follow after her, and the two of them tell each other that no matter what happens, they've got each other's backs. Later on, Phil transforms Keely into a large, bully-sized classmate to intimidate Tanner into never cheating on anyone else ever again. In the B-plot, Bradley and Debbie are dating, and Pim thinks it's obnoxious, so she comes up with a plan to break them up. Pim tells Debbie that Bradley confessed his feelings for her, and a devastated Debbie shoves a dessert in his face and breaks up with him on the spot. Debbie later tells Pim that she wants to be more like her so she can win back the affections of Bradley. So Pim agrees, and Debbie shows off her new attitude at school, and it just makes Bradley realize that he really does have feelings for Pim. In the next episode, similarly to the replicator, we have the Instamorph. It works basically like the replicator does. You scan a person, and then you apply the scan to yourself or someone else, altering your form and voice to perfectly mimic the scanned person. It even works if you scan a poster of a person, and it is shown to be able to save previous scans in the device to switch between forms at will.
Okay, yeah, this is the one I use to commit crimes. So you could scan any poster of like a celebrity and just be them?
It seems like it. Phil scans a poster with a student on it and turns into that student to like find out some information that he's being sneaky about.
He's kind of a creep.
He does it to protect Keely, who's getting cheated on by her boyfriend. So he turns into her boyfriend to find out that he actually is cheating on her.
It does have nefarious potential, I think, is the issue.
It does, yes.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that they have world peace.
Well, that's the thing. They like must just like be totally on the same page with a lot of this stuff, because I do think you could do some nefarious shit with the Instamorph, with the replicator, with the Invisa spray. Yeah, with the DNA scrambler if you really wanted to. Yeah. With the wizard. We'll get to the wizard later. Holy shit.
You said you could show us stuff. I want to see a picture of the wizard.
Oh, okay, I got you. He's holding it right here, to be honest.
Oh, okay. Hold on. This stupid looking
That
thing.
is not at all what I imagined it to look like.
Yeah.
Looks like a Pee-wee's Playhouse gadget.
Essentially, yeah.
I'm shocked that was a separate picture of Phil and not just part of that logo. Sorry, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I didn't expect that either.
That's weird.
I know, I set it up that way. I was deceiving you guys.
That was brilliant. That was the coolest thing.
It really threw me off.
I gotta keep you guys on your toes.
Yeah, thank you.
In episode 12, Age Before Beauty, Phil and Keely are trying to grow a tree for science class that's a cross between a plum and a lemon, and they call it a plemon tree. But what they really should call it is dead, considering neither of them bothered to water it at all, and so Keely asks Phil if he has any future gadget type of thing that can fix their tree, to which he's hesitant, stating that they shouldn't just magically fix all of their mistakes, but Keely easily convinces him otherwise, and Phil pulls something out of a box of gadgets called the New Ager. This is a device that can age and de-age whatever you use it on, including living beings. So he ages up the plemon tree to be a healthy tree sprout, and Keely curiously asks Phil if he's ever used the New Ager on himself to see what he's gonna look like as an adult. Phil replies no, and says that using these gadgets for personal fun can end up with super dire consequences. For example, in the future, Pim is messing around with one of the New Agers, and she accidentally turns Lloyd into a baby during his conference call, ultimately getting him fired from his job. Despite Phil's warnings, Keely steals the New Ager and uses it on herself in the school hallway completely out in the open. She ages herself from 14 to 25 and looks like a completely different human, which just isn't how aging works. I think everyone would still be able to recognize a 25-year-old Keely as herself, or at least as a member of the Teslo family, but whatever. Keely surprises Phil with her new look, but before he can do anything about it, the bell rings and Vice Principal Hackett tells Phil to get to class, and then he turns to Keely with questions about who she even is and why she's here. She tells Hackett that she's a substitute teacher, and Mr. Hackett immediately shoves her into his classroom to cover for him because he's in distress from his recent breakup. So Keely teaches the class and tells Phil to present the report to the class, and she gives him an A, claiming that it's the best report she's ever heard. Keely's flirty and bubbly personality coming out of a grown woman talking to a 14-year-old Phil is just a little bit uncomfortable to watch, but you know. At least we know that it's actually Keely, right? Mr. Hackett now returns to the classroom now that he's ready to resume teaching and has gotten a hold of himself, so he thanks Keely for filling in for him and then shoos her out. Keely goes to leave and Mr. Hackett goes to chase after her and asks her out on a date. He sets up the location and time without giving her a chance to reply, so yeah, these two scenes back to back made me feel not great to watch, but you know. Disney in 2004, right? There's gotta be some, like, rules and regulations regarding the use of this device in the future, and if there's not, that's worrisome, to say the least. After all of this commotion is over, Phil changes Keely back to her normal age and asks her what she's planning to do about the date that she just got set up for. And Keely tells Phil that she's just not gonna go on the date, and that Mr. Hackett won't ever see Miss Vanderhoosie again. Yeah, that's the name that she gave her adult self, by the way, Miss Vanderhoosie. But Phil tells Keely that her plan isn't gonna work because Mr. Hackett will be completely devastated. And honestly, I'm on Keely's team for this one. Don't humor this man and his insane delusions, alright? He didn't even give her a chance to respond. A little bit later on, Phil is shredding on his drum set in his room while he and Keely try to think of a plan. Damn, Phil, I didn't know you got down like that. Phil tells Keely that she should go on the date with him, but while she's there, she can mention her baseball player boyfriend that will be played by an aged-up Phil. While the date is happening, Phil is about to age himself up to a 30-year-old in broad daylight in the restaurant, but while he's going to do that, someone accidentally bumps into him, and he accidentally accidentally makes the number go to 76 instead of 30. So when Phil sits down, he is an elderly gentleman, and Hackett is about to leave devastated, but old man Phil tells Hackett that if an old man like him can get a girl like Miss Vanderhoosie, then there's definitely someone out there for him too. The next day at school, Mr. Hackett tells Phil and Keeley that he got back together with his ex-girlfriend, claiming that a wise old man gave him some sage advice, and now he can play it cool in his relationship. So Neil is a happy man. In the B-plot for the school news program, Pim and Bradley experience different school events and give their reviews on them, and in her review, Pim completely shits on a play that they both had to watch, while Bradley is singing its praises. And it's later revealed that Bradley was bribed for a good review, and when Pim finds out about the bribery on the table, she wants in on the action immediately. So the two go to a taste test for the new school chef, and apparently he's from Louisiana and cooked in all sorts of restaurants and prisons. During the next school broadcast, they give him a positive review, and a different student reveals hidden camera footage of them bribing the chef, ultimately getting them in trouble. In the next episode, we're introduced to the New Ager. It's a gadget that can age up or age down a subject, including humans and living things. First, Phil uses it on their science project, which is a plant. And they didn't water it or like let it grow, so they used that gadget to grow it into a healthy plant to get a good grade. And then Keeley is like, hey, have you ever used this on yourself? And then Phil is like, oh no, you shouldn't use these gadgets for that kind of stuff. Like it always goes bad. So it does kind of seem like there's like a universal understanding not to use these things for like nefarious reasons, but they did just use it to cheat and get a good grade. And also Keeley uses it to age herself up to the age 25, and then she goes on a date with their vice principal because he's creeping on her.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, so this is one that feels like, what's the positive?
Yeah.
What would you do with this thing? Wait, can you age stuff down?
Yes.
You could like spoiled food, maybe. You could like make it before it was spoiled. Or wine. You can make really good wine by speeding up the aging.
Yeah, maybe that's how they do all the food. That's like why they don't need to know how to cook all of this stuff. They just kind of like age the food to a certain like way, have a chef prepare it and like shove it into a compressed can to be sprayed out later.
True,
See, that's brilliant.
That's good theory about how the food works. You could use the New Ager for sure.
Not enough of a positive that
or the replicator.
14-year-old can turn herself into a 25-year-old woman and go on a date with her principal.
Or yeah, like literally any 16-year-old can turn themselves into a 21-year-old and go to the club, and then it's like what that there's so many weird like age issues now.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh dearie me.
In episode 13, Phillin In, Lloyd and Barb are going on a road trip for their anniversary, leaving Phil and Pim alone by themselves. Lloyd tells them both that Phil is going to be the one in charge while they're gone, much to both of their dismay. Phil tells his dad that he doesn't want to be in charge of Pim because she's a wild animal. So Lloyd sweetens the deal by telling him that if everything goes well, he can have the Afterburner, which is an upgrade for the Skyak that makes you move at incredible speeds. When Pim overhears this, she becomes determined to ruin this opportunity for Phil. Before heading out, Lloyd and Barb give the kids a list of chores to do while they're gone, and Phil tells Pim that the list isn't that long, so he'll just take care of them all. Pim, instead, decides to make Phil's time harder by blowing over the leaf pile he just gathered and getting Curtis all dirty after he had just given him a bath. So after that happens, Phil is fed up with Pim telling her that he's trying to be cool with her about the chores so he doesn't understand what her problem is. And Pim tells him that she won't let him earn that afterburner, because that's what she's mad about for some reason. But like honestly, that's the stupidest thing ever, because babysitters get paid, and that's essentially all that's happening here. Phil's payment for having to keep an eye on his sister is the afterburner. Phil gets upset at Pim and tells her to clean the garage, forcing her to do her share of the chores like she was originally supposed to. But while in the garage, Pim sets up a hologram of herself and projects her voice from the garage, tricking Phil and Keely into going in and checking on her. But while they're in there, Pim locks the door, leaving both Phil and Keely stuck. This means that they're gonna miss the check-in phone call from Barb, ultimately ruining Phil's chances of getting that afterburner, and Pim flies off on the Skyak to wreak havoc upon the world, until the machine runs out of power, and she crash lands on a cliffside. While in the garage, Phil and Keely are able to get Curtis's attention, and they convince him to break down the garage door, giving Phil enough time to answer Barb's phone call. And after hanging up on the phone call, Phil and Keely locate the Skyak with its built-in tracker, and they ride their bikes to the location to find Pim still stuck on that cliff. Phil doesn't hesitate for even a second, and he climbs up that mountain to rescue his little sister. And the two siblings have a heartfelt conversation at the top of the mountain, and Phil shows Pim the footholds to get down. They all make it home safely, and Pim cleans the garage before Lloyd and Barb get home. And since they finished all the chores, Phil gets to keep the afterburner. In the B-plot, Lloyd and Barb are going on a road trip for their honeymoon, and after a while of driving, a police car starts to follow them with his lights and sirens turned on, but neither Lloyd or Barb know what that means. They think that he's just showing off his cool lights, implying that there are no highway patrols in the future. They eventually decide to pull over after being followed for 23 miles, and once they're stopped, the cop asks them if they've been drinking, and Lloyd says yes while lifting up his beverage, much to the cop's disgust. And the cop walks back to his car and comes back with two $150 tickets. I don't know all the intricacies of the law, but I'm pretty sure evading a police officer for 23 miles and admitting to drinking and driving would get you arrested on the spot instead of just a couple of fines. But maybe things were different in 2004. I don't know. In the next episode, we are introduced to an upgrade for the Skyak. It's not a physical upgrade, it's like a software upgrade. And it's used as like a booster, right? So it's called the Gravity Warp Afterburner. It increases the speed of a Skyak to 9 Gs, according to Barb, which is equivalent to the top speeds of a fighter jet.
Oh, okay. All right.
We also see in this episode that the Skyak has a tracker in it, and you can like visualize seeing it on like a 3D hologram plane, more hologram normalcy. I briefly mentioned this earlier. I'm just going to read what I wrote. Lloyd and Barb don't know what a police car is. They're clueless to the lights, sirens, and car design, as well as not understanding that the man in uniform is a police officer. They don't understand what a ticket is. This either means the police system is abolished in the future or completely reworked to the point that old police protocol is completely unrecognizable for the better or the worse.
Yeah, I was thinking if there's world peace, I don't know if that's just between countries or if there's just no crime. I that seems strange.
I mean, there is still like a governing body, though, at the very least.
You would think, right?
The world government. It's like One Piece.
The world government.
One Piece. So him and his dad are racing in normal. So it's just like you just plop it on and you can boost up.
Oh, so they're not at all like Hawaii or the Skyak. They are like jet skis.
They call them Skyaks, but I definitely described them correctly as a jet ski.
Y instead. I'm confused why they called it a Skyak and not jet ski, but with a Y instead of an I.
Jet sky. I think just because Skyak is more fun to say.
Yeah, but they don't look like a kayak, though.
It should have just made it look like a kayak.
I'm so stressed out. They just don't look like a kayak.
I just think it would be so funny if it did look like a kayak.
Yeah, it would be awesome. You have to row really fast.
In the beginning of episode 14, Daddy Dearest, Lloyd stops by the school to drop off a textbook that Pim forgot at home. And on his way out, Lloyd accidentally bumps into the music teacher, dropping his American folk instrument in the process. And this instrument in question sparks a long conversation between the two, ultimately ending with Lloyd being invited to perform in front of Phil's music class the next day. Upon hearing this, Phil is mortified because his dad is an embarrassing mess. So the next day at school, Lloyd walks into the music class dressed in overalls with a washboard around his neck, and he delivers a master class on accidentally embarrassing his children. The entire classroom laughs at Lloyd and subtly makes fun of Phil the entire time. After this, during the lunch period, Phil and Keely are recounting how embarrassing that class period was, but Phil takes solace in the fact that it's just over now, which is when Lloyd walks up to Phil, Pim, and Keely and asks how they thought the performance was, and they tell him it was unbelievable and unforgettable, technically not lying. The music teacher overhears this and agrees that Lloyd's passion for American folk music is incredible. She then offers him a spot on the guest speakers panel during an assembly in front of the entire school, terrifying both Pim and Phil. So, in an effort to avoid massive embarrassment, Phil, Pim, and Keely come up with the plan to replicate their dad and teach the replicant how to be cool and suave. Pim tries to keep the real Lloyd away from the school by burying his keys, but Lloyd easily finds them with his metal detector, and upon making it to the school, Lloyd runs into Replicant Lloyd and asks Phil what the deal is. Phil tells his dad the truth and gets rid of the replicant because he doesn't like how he called his dad's interests lame, even though the replicant was a version of his dad, whatever. Lloyd tells his kids that he didn't realize that they felt so strongly, and he tells them that he does not have to play the silly folk songs, but this is when Phil tells him that they aren't silly, they're what makes him him, and Phil's proud of that. And after this little pep talk, Lloyd goes out on stage and the crowd immediately starts to heckle him with rude insults. So in response, Phil and Pim join their father in solidarity and perform the next song with him, rounding out the episode. In the B-plot, Barb dresses Curtis in normal clothes and takes him to the dentist, and the dentist takes x-rays of Curtis's mouth and realizes that his jaw structure is prehistoric. And after this discovery, he leaves to get a second opinion from his mentor. So Barb knocks Curtis's tooth out with a door, and they leave before the mentor can show up. Next up, we have episode 15, entitled My Way. The Pickford pageant is coming up, and Keely is challenged by her third grade Thanksgiving pageant rival. Keely desperately wants to sign up, but she's hesitant due to her intense stage fright. But she tells Phil that her dream is to be a singer, so Phil encourages her to sign up for the pageant anyway. Keely goes to the audition and is about to start singing when she becomes crippled by her stage fright. Phil, trying to fix the situation, pulls out his wizard and says that he's gonna boost the volume before aiming at Keely and activating the voice modulator. After this, Keely begins to sing confidently and puts on an excellent performance. The next day at school, Keely tells Phil that she made it to the finals and then immediately brags about it to Tutor, as well as doubling down on their rivalry. Yes, I pronounced her name correctly. Apparently this woman's name is Tutor. But this is when Phil comes clean and tells Keely that he used the voice modulator on his wizard to Tadow her voice. And I'm kind of confused. What did Phil do here? Amplify her voice? Modify her voice to make it sound better? They're not really clear about what happened. The two friends make a plan to get over her stage fright by gathering a crowd of friends and neighbors for Keely to perform in front of. While attempting to practice, Keely still can't sing, so she slowly gets rid of the crowd until she feels comfortable enough to. But it turns out that Phil is the only one left that she feels comfortable enough to sing in front of. But during this performance to Phil, she sings with the same quality as when the wizard was used. So did he just boost her confidence with the voice modulator? Seriously, how does that thing work? Keely tells Phil that she realized she can just focus on singing to him specifically, and she'll be able to sing in front of the crowd no problem. She doesn't practice that plan at all, and just goes straight for the stage performance. On stage, Keely's looking for Phil in the audience, but the lights are way too bright for her to see anyone out there. Phil realizes this and comes running to the side of the stage and shrinks himself down with the wizard and climbs up to the microphone. Keely finally notices Tiny Phil on the microphone and gains the confidence to sing again. And I'm kind of curious of why Phil didn't just stay standing at the side of the stage where Keely can seem perfectly fine. No need to shrink down and climb a microphone stand in front of the whole school. Also, Phil is basically screaming into the microphone as a shrunken man. That would be blaring through the speakers. Anyways, Tara ends up winning the pageant while Keely got 3rd place, but Keely got what she truly wanted in the end, a chance to sing in front of a crowd of people. In the B-plot, Pim and Bradley are paired up as parents to take care of a sack of flour as their baby. Hijinks ensue, and they eventually rip the bag open on accident and get a D- on the project. Alright, in the next episode, we're introduced to a shrinking gadget. It can shrink a subject and grow them back to normal size. We're also introduced to the voice modulator. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what it does. I watched the whole episode and I have no idea what it's so inconsistently portrayed that I have no clue what it does. I assume it's like on the fly auto tune. I said somehow affects your voice. It's extremely unclear. Phil uses it to make Keely sing good, but she's already a good singer, just shy. But it allowed her to sing without being shy. I don't know. See, she's nervous and shy. Right? He says, let's pump up the volume, points it at her, and now she has confidence and is singing loudly. But it's like, is just the volume giving her confidence? Because it's clearly not that he just raised the volume, she's confident now.
Yeah.
At first I thought maybe it made her voice sound good, but she sings here without any effect, and she sounds the same. It's like the exact same performance. So I don't know what it did.
Yeah, because he did just say he was raising the volume.
Right.
So...
But that doesn't make her, like, confident.
That doesn't make her, not nervous.
Right. Because, like, she
would... If anything, that would make her more nervous.
Right. Because raising the volume would have, like, just been more of, like, the initial, like, you're always there for me, but just louder.
Yeah. Just really loud. Really embarrassing for her, even.
Yeah, honestly. I think the idea is that it's supposed to be like I think he was just trying to raise the volume, and that's all it was supposed to be, and maybe it gave her confidence.
Yeah, perhaps.
But I was scratching my head with that one. In the next episode, Team Diffy. This is actually the season 1 finale, but in the chronological order that I found online, this was at episode 16, so we're talking about it right now. Phil and Keely are teaching Curtis some etiquette in the backyard when friend from the future, Andy Baxley, shows up and pulls a prank on Phil. And since he's in town, Andy gets invited in for dinner, and after some talking, he agrees to give the Diffys a ride home back to 2121. Apparently, the only reason Andy Baxley is here is because he picked up a signal from the Diffys time machine while time traveling on his own. However, in privacy, Phil tells Keely that Andy Baxley isn't his friend at all, and he's actually kind of a cruel person. So later on in the day, Phil, Keely, and Andy are walking through town when they run into the mayor of Pickford, California, Mayor DeLuca. And Andy Baxley decides to cause a little bit of mischief, and he pranks the mayor by pantsing him with his wizard. He also implies that he did this exact same thing to Abraham Lincoln while time traveling, so he is just a menace, you know what I mean? Phil expresses his distaste for these actions, and Andy tells him that the two of them are gonna pull an even bigger prank later at the statue unveiling for the Friar of Pickford, I believe, something like that. Phil initially refuses to be an accomplice, but Andy tells Phil that if he doesn't help him out, then he won't give his family a ride back to the future.
You in or you out?
I'm out.
Later on, Phil reconsiders this decision and tells Andy that he's in if it means that he'll still take his family home. So Phil and Andy head over to the Pickford statue, and Andy's big prank idea is to change the pose of the statue to be picking his nose, and change the wording on the plaque from Pick Forward to Pick Nose. After seeing the statue's desecration, Phil becomes upset and changes it back to its original form, and the two future boys go back and forth with this a few times before Phil runs up to the statue and brings it to life, telling it to run away. And Andy is pissed off by Phil's defiance and turns Phil into a statue with his wizard, leaving him there to be unveiled later in front of the whole town. Keely goes to the Diffys and tries to tell them about the ultimatum that Andy gave Phil, And cut to the unveiling ceremony where Mayor DeLuca unveils the statue, and much to his and everybody's surprise, they realize that the statue is actually high school student Phil Diffy. Barb and Lloyd show up in the audience and reprimand Andy for turning their only son into stone, and they eventually get Phil unstatuified after everybody leaves. Later on at the house, Andy pretends to be very sorry, telling the Diffys that he's putting himself in a timeout, but instead he just goes into his time machine and leaves the Diffys behind. In the B-plot, now that Pim realizes she's going to be going home, she insults all of the people that she had to pretend to be nice to while stuck here, but now that they're stuck again, she has to deal with the consequences of her actions. Alright, so this episode is technically the finale for season 1, but chronologically it's not. The whole theming of this episode is that Phil's friend or acquaintance from the future is also going on a time traveling vacation because he got a time machine as like a graduation gift, I guess. Time machines can track each other or like ping each other when they're nearby, because he noticed a ping from the Diffy's time machine in 2004. So Phil's friend Andy stops in 2004 to like pay them a visit and be like, oh, I didn't realize you guys were settling down in this century. What made you guys choose that? But Lloyd states that the time machine crashed because he didn't clean the booster pump, apparently. So that's the reason. After Andy Baxley agrees to give the Diffys a ride back to the future, Phil tells Keeley that they'll still be able to see each other all of the time because time travel is instantaneous and it will be like having different classes instead of being in different states. But it's clearly stated that Phil and his family don't have a time machine and that they rented one. So I don't know if he's just fucking lying to her.
I mean, the next time he can afford to purchase a rental, it would still be instantaneous for her because he could just go back to that point.
Then he'd be like 18 though.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like
then
he's gonna
he'd
be
use
aging
the
up.
de-ager.
Exactly.
True.
The new ager, yeah. Also during that conversation, Phil tells Keeley that she can visit the future and that they have malls that are 90 stories tall. So that's some pretty advanced infrastructure.
Right.
Everyone's going to the mall so that they can socialize because they go to VR schools and don't get any socialization.
What could you possibly fill 90 stories a mall with?
Apparently the wizard has a function that can de-pants someone.
Okay, that's weird. Why? Why would you ever want to do that?
I don't know, but Andy Baxley is a prankster, and he uses his wizard to de-pants someone and claims that he also did it to Abraham Lincoln. So the wizard can do all that.
That is just something that's there for nefarious reasons. I can't think of a single reason why you'd want to de-pants someone.
Yeah, or what if you're wearing like really tight leather pants and you need help getting them
And
off?
you can't get them off.
True.
Because someone help him, he's choking on his pants.
Get the de-pantser.
Also, apparently in the future, a third grader can easily access plutonium because Andy Baxley uses plutonium to prank his teacher, so she grew another head.
Oh, okay, of course. Andy sounds like an asshole.
He is. Yeah, Andy Baxley is played by Orlando Brown, so he's canonically in real life kind of an asshole too. So.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, that makes sense.
The wizard can change the position of a stone statue. They change like the arm position and like how they're posed of an already made statue. It can change the lettering on a metal plaque instantaneously. It can animate the statue to be alive and move around and have consciousness. It can also turn a human being into a statue, sort of like Medusa style. Yeah.
So it's strange. It can give it sentience almost.
Can it not just alter reality? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how else to write that reality.
Wizard is a Deus ex machina. Sorry. So close.
So close.
Try again?
Never
He
mind.
won't include that. Try again?
Deus ex... Fuck. No, Devin, cut this out. Deus ex... Fuck. No, Devin, cut this out. Devin ex... Fuck, cut this out. Deus ex machina.
Deus, cut this out.
We're in the home stretch. We only have like 4 or 5 more episodes. I cut all of that out for you, Joe. Don't worry.
Devin used the wizard on this episode.
I did.
Oh, he did, yeah.
I use it. The wizard is how I edit my videos.
Yes, exactly.
You don't get a replicant?
Ooh, I wish. I didn't buy a replicator
The
yet.
question is, are the replicants also sentient, or is it like a Mr. Beasties kind of thing where they know they have to like finish a task?
they have sentience, but they're perfectly comfortable being like eliminated. So I think they understand that they're
Yeah, okay,
replicants,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Because Phil and his clones argue with each other / themselves, and it like leads Phil to realize that he was being a jerk to his friends. But like they also kind of have like their own opinions because like they were arguing with each other while also all being
Yeah.
the same person, so they don't like share a mental link or anything.
Okay, cool.
In episode 17, Doggie Daycare, Festapalooza is happening this weekend, and Phil, Keely, and Tia each need $100 to buy tickets. Phil asks his dad for the money, but he says that he has to work for it himself. So Phil gets the idea to start a doggy daycare business to earn some money for the tickets. Tia's rich, so she already bought hers. On the first day of the doggy daycare business, though, everything goes super easily for them until they get to a dog named Mad Max. They go into the backyard and Max chases both of them on top of his doghouse and barks at them aggressively. So Phil pulls out his wizard and uses it to translate what the dog is saying. And the dog says,
"Another move and I'll rip your appendix out and use it as a chew toy."
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. After a little bit of conversation, Max tells them that his master went off to college and now he just wants to bite stuff all the time. So Keely, feeling bad for him, tells Max that they'll be his new friends, and he agrees to let them come down. Phil and Keely tell Max that since they're friends now, they'll come back tomorrow and spend some more time with him. And then we get a fun montage scene of Phil and Keely playing with the dog, and I think it's meant to show that it's annoying to spend all day with him, but he's just a cute little guy. I would spend all day with this dog, he's so much fun. After the montage, Max shows up at Phil's house while he's getting ready to leave for Festapalooza, and Max tells Phil that he's upset that his master Jimmy isn't coming home from college this weekend, so Phil pets him for 23 minutes straight to try to make him feel better. But eventually, Phil tells Max that he has to leave for the concert, and so Max should probably head home. And while walking to Festapalooza, a frog starts following Phil and Keely, so they use the wizard on him to see what he has to say. And the frog tells Phil and Keely that Max broke out of his house and is running away because there's nobody that cares about him. Keely immediately leaves to go search for Max because he could be lost, hurt, or stolen, and Phil eventually follows after her. Phil and Keely find him sitting in front of a pet adoption center, hoping to find a new family, but this unfortunately made Max even more upset because people only wanted to adopt the puppies. Keely tells Max that they both missed the concert for him, and they promise to spend time with him as often as they can, and the three walk off together happily. Unfortunately, this is the last time we see Max. He's just here for this one episode. I wish we could see him more, though. This dog is so fun. In the B-plot, Debbie trips Pim during gym class, and Pim pretends to be injured so she can have Debbie cater for her every need. But Debbie smothers her with kindness and makes Pim want to scream so loudly, so she comes clean and admits that she was never injured and was lying the whole time, but Debbie hears this and thinks that Pim faked her injury so that she could spend more time with her, and then they do a choreographed dance number together. In the next episode, we see that the wizard can translate animal sounds to human speech, and it can translate human speech to animal sounds.
Awesome.
If you could communicate with your pet, what would you want to say to them, or have them say to you?
I don't have anything lined up.
You just don't know off rip what you'd want your cat or like to say to you.
I'd be
Not
like,
like
"Hey,
a cute
man."
call or anything.
I'd probably just want to know what they'd have to say. Like, I don't know. I
You
feel
work
like
with
animals,
so you could do that.
yeah, I also feel like animals like kind of understand what we say, so I feel like I'd more so want to be like, what are you saying? You know what I mean?
Fair.
So that's me.
I don't know. I think my cats would say I'm pretty cool and awesome, but that's just me.
Yeah, I don't know if my
Excuse
dog
you?
would say that. He'd be like, hey man, leave me the fuck alone sometimes.
Stop talking to me about Phil of the future.
Get a life, actually, or something. In episode 18, Tanner. Tanner is the anchor for the school news broadcast in this episode, and he keeps messing up all of his lines because of Phil, who wrote the cue cards, and his penmanship is just atrocious. Phil explains his poor handwriting to Keely by saying that by the time he was born, everything was either on the computer or voice activated, so at least he's a whiz at typing. His handwriting, though, is so concerning that he gets sent to a second grade class so he can learn how to write legibly, and hijinks ensue. While in his second grade class, Phil meets a kid named Crash who has a video camera attached to his helmet, so he can tell his mom how his days are at school because he never seems to remember. The next day, Tanner announces on the school news that there's going to be a special report coming tomorrow about how it's never too late to go back to the second grade, causing Phil to panic, and he questions how Tanner was able to find out about this secret of his. It turns out that Crash is Tanner's younger brother, and he found out because he saw Crash's video of Phil in his class. So later that day, Keely and Phil go to Tanner's house to collect the evidence and destroy it. Keely distracts Tanner with a fake survey, while Phil uses his Omnimatic grabifiers to steal the videotape from Tanner's room, which he ultimately fails to do. Phil is concerned about being embarrassed in front of the whole school, but he learns from his father Lloyd that it's okay to accept yourself for who you are, and even laugh at yourself sometimes. Phil takes this lesson to heart, so before Tanner announces that he had to go to the second grade, Phil hops into frame and admits it himself, before he can be made fun of for it. And while the tape plays, Phil laughs along with everyone else and says that it's okay because we all have our stuff that we're embarrassed about. To which Tanner claims he does not, but his little brother Crash calls him out on his bullshit, telling the live broadcast about last week when they went to a petting zoo and Tanner cried after a lamb licked him. And apparently, he wouldn't stop crying until they stopped to get him ice cream on the way home. They wrap up the broadcast and Phil passes his second grade penmanship class. In the B-plot, Pim uses Debbie to cheat on her test, and the rest of the episode she's haunted by her conscience until she admits that she cheated to the real Debbie and her teacher. In the next episode, we're introduced to a gadget that's not part of the wizard. They are called Omnimatic.
Omnitrix. Oh.
No. Omnimatic grabifiers.
Okay.
You just grip things really hard?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Omnimatic grabifiers are gloves that emit lasers that can attach to things like you're grabbing it. Phil describes it as laser suction cups. Lloyd uses them to grab onto the ceiling of their garage and monkey bar-esque walk across.
Oh, so really like
the
a
garage.
monkey.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
You know that thing that is shaped like a dinosaur's mouth that you use to grab stuff? It's essentially that.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
The only other gadget in this episode is Pim uses invisible ink to write the answers to a test on an outfit, and then they have sunglasses that reveal it, but that's something that exists. They treat it as it's a future gadget, so maybe it's just an upgraded version, because the pen that Pim is writing with looks almost like a tattoo gun kind of a thing. So let's just say it's just an upgraded version of that, Next up, we have quite the doozy of an episode. It's episode 19, entitled Halloween. Debbie Berwick joins Keely on the school news to promote her upcoming Halloween bake sale. This year, raising the goal to 50,000 cupcakes, which definitely isn't feasible in that short of a time with limited funds of a middle schooler. Later in the day, Phil and Keely are walking down the hallway and mistake the long line for Debbie's bake sale when it's actually a line for Pim's demolition watch party. Pim is disrespecting Debbie in the hallway, cutting her off before she can speak, while also trying to get her to move the bake sale somewhere else. And in this moment is when something finally snaps inside of Debbie and she breaks the clipboard that she's holding just straight in half. Later in the day, Debbie approaches Pim and tries to apologize with a cupcake, but she also tries to get Pim's help with her bake sale, to which Pim frequently declines her request until Debbie starts making demands in a deep, sinister voice. She even physically threatens Pim by grabbing her by the shoulders and lifting her clean off the ground with zero strain at all. After experiencing this, Pim immediately agrees to help with the bake sale, so there you go. Later at home, Phil is helping his dad with some future tech stuff when he notices something in the cybernetic catalog. One of the cyborgs listed, the Sugar and Spice 800, looks identical to Debbie. And Lloyd dismisses the idea, saying that it's impossible because the Sugar and Spice 800 all got discontinued and all of the remaining models were sent into the 21st century, to which Phil reminds his dad that they're currently living in the 21st century. That's an interesting cyborg disposal method, by the way. According to Lloyd, these cyborgs were discontinued because they had a malfunction that turned them from super sweet to pure evil, as well as they had an issue with overheating. After learning this, Phil and Keely show up at the Halloween party to find that there's not a single person in attendance, and they smell freshly baked cupcakes in the air along with a steady drum beat, so the pair decide to follow their senses, which eventually lead them to a room full of students making cupcakes in an assembly line fashion, with Pim leading the production. Debbie has turned the Pickford High School student body into a slave labor workforce of cupcake makers, and Pim tells everybody to continue working, reminding them that they're being watched by security cameras that are everywhere. When Phil and Keely enter the room, Pim uses frosted cupcakes to communicate that they all need to be rescued desperately. So Phil and Keely leave and try and come up with a plan when they immediately run into Debbie, who's now dressed in a full villain outfit. Keely pulls out her phone to call for help, but Debbie takes Keely's phone and breaks it in her bare hand. Trying to get the upper hand, Phil launches several electrical attacks from his wizard, but Debbie blocks every single one of them with her wrist gauntlets. Phil and Keely run off in fear while Debbie chases after them in a Scooby-Doo style chase scene. Phil and Keely eventually make it back to the room of cupcakes, where they convince everybody to start eating the cupcakes in order to make Debbie overheat, and she melts into a pile of goop. The students celebrate the death of their former classmate and move on like nothing happened. In the next episode is the Halloween episode. So apparently, Halloween costumes are shown to be very realistic in the future. Phil shows like a little montage of what he dressed up as in the past, and he was once a baby, once a professional like sumo wrestler, and once like a desk chair. So I think that's just the wizard like scanning something and then making himself look like the Instamorph or whatever. That's what I'm gonna say that is. But he can essentially like prop hunt, just change yourself into an inanimate object and still move around, is what it showed us with the chair.
Oh, fun.
Future is just Gary's mod.
Lloyd commonly just mentions that he found a J6 robot. So robots are a common thing and they have several different models. This episode also shows that there are 3 different types of cyborgs for sale, which is interesting because cyborgs are humans with cybernetic enhancements, but they have a catalog that Phil and Lloyd are looking through that show 3 distinct cyborgs, specifically stated to be cyborgs. One is called the Exercise Buddy 3000, and it's just a guy who seemingly helps you exercise. You know, he's in like a sweatsuit. There's the Party Host 2000, I'm assuming will host your party. And then there's the Sugar and Spice 800. And I've mentioned Pim's rival once or twice. Her name's Debbie Berwick, and Debbie Berwick is a Sugar and Spice 800 model.
Oh.
Debbie Berwick is a cyborg.
What?
It's revealed that the Sugar and Spice 800 model was defective in certain areas, so they discontinued it and sent all of the existing models of it to the 21st century. And then Phil's like, Dad, we're in the 21st century. And then Lloyd's like, oh my God, it is Debbie. So it's an interesting way. It makes it seem like they just dispose of things by sending them back in time.
That's so problematic.
It also implies that they're selling human beings.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's a cyborg. You're right. It's still like half human.
Right. So like, do they just view people who decided to get cybernetic enhancements as lesser than, and now they're slaves? Or did they cybernetically enhance these people to obey, and now they're selling them?
That's so. That's really
because
funny. I don't know why
the
that's so funny to me.
specific wording of cyborg
really
instead of
bad.
robot or android
selling people.
means that they're selling
It's just like
people.
why would they?
Or who once were people, at least.
If you're really gonna like, I guess it's exile. I don't know. I was like, oh, shoot your junk into space in the future. I don't care. But it's like, okay, the most mercy they have for a human is send them back in time. It's kind of weird.
I do want to go more into Debbie, just as a concept, because exploring her as a character will help us explore what cyborgs are and can do throughout the whole show. So the sugar and spice model is defective because, one, it has an overheating problem, and two, is that it was created to be a force of good, to spread positivity and niceness and kindness throughout the world, but over time it started to like warp and became pure evil, according to Lloyd. Debbie in this episode is like slowly breaking and becoming evil. We also see that she has like a charge port on the back of her neck that she like charges up with a baton with like a crystallized thing on the back of it, and she just very clearly charges herself up that way. She has very superior strength. She grabs Pim by her shoulders and just like raises her arms and lifts her off the ground. Debbie's voice like deepens to like an evil register when she's speaking, like in like as she's turning evil and that stuff. Phil tries to attack Debbie with his wizard, essentially shooting electrical like bolts at her, and she just blocks them with her like wrist gauntlets. So
what happens in this fucking episode? They just have a battle with the cyborg?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, essentially. They eventually are able to overcome the situation because Phil remembers that his dad said that the Sugar and Spice 800 has an overheating problem. So Debbie's whole thing this episode was she created an army of students to bake cupcakes for her bake sale that she wanted to do at the beginning of the episode when she was still positive, you know? So she enslaved students to make cupcakes for her, and then all of the students started eating the cupcakes in front of her, which stressed Debbie out so much that she overheated and melted into a puddle of goop.
Oh, she melted?
She melted, yeah. She didn't explode, she melted into a puddle of goop.
Okay, like a witch.
Yeah.
Strange resolution.
Yeah. Debbie can also kick down a door easily and break a phone in her bare hand.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so did she somehow? Okay, you said enslave. Now is that she asked them and they said yes, or did she force them?
She threatened them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Oh yes. Does she have parents then?
She has a grandmother, and in theory, because the grandmother seems like she's a little bit dementia-y, so it seems like the Sugar Spice 800, aka Debbie, took advantage of this old woman and just to like have a place to stay, and just decided to take on the ruse of Debbie Berwick, because Debbie fully understands that she's a cyborg. Like, she's never confused about that. So that's the troubling part about that. Next up, we have episode 20, Raging Bull. Myron and his friends are taking advantage of the freshly waxed floors by seeing who can slide the furthest down the hallways on their stomachs like a penguin. And, you know, Phil's down to give it a try, so he slides down the hallway and breaks the current record on his first attempt, which is great, except for the fact that he tumbled into a teacher, earning them all a spot in detention. During detention, Myron talks openly about his belief in conspiracy theories. This will be important later in the episode, trust me. And Myron and his friends consider inviting Phil to hang out with them at the school dance, but they quickly remember that Phil is always hanging out with Keeley, so he wouldn't be able to join them. But the boys continue to talk about their plan to bring a live bull into the school as a prank. I guess one of the guys has like a barn with a bull in it that he can bring to the school. Phil is having some quality bonding time with his detention buddies, but when detention's over, Keeley pops up saying that she's been waiting around for Phil so that they can go shopping at the mall together. In this moment, Phil realizes that he doesn't really have any guy friends, so Phil tells Keeley that he wants to hang out with his new buddies at the school dance later, instead of her, because they spend almost every second together. Keely tries to hide her hurt feelings by saying that it's all fine and she'll just go to the dance with her girlfriends. So later on at the school, the guys are bringing the bull through the hallway and open the gym doors to the dance to send him on in. But the guys are a little confused because the bull is acting much more aggressive than usual, and Phil asks if she's gonna be okay. And this is when the owner realizes that he accidentally brought the bull's angrier twin brother, Ramon, to the school instead of the more docile sister. So everybody runs away in fear as the bull chases them through the hallways, and Myron gets cornered by the bull, so Phil, in desperation, pulls out his wizard, his trusty wizard, and turns the bull into a cat. This causes Myron to stare on in disbelief, and Phil just pretends that what he just did was no big deal, while Myron is completely freaking out, saying that they have to tell the newspaper or the police about it. Luckily, he doesn't realize that the transformation was the handiwork of Phil. But Phil kind of blows his cover right away by saying that they shouldn't tell anybody, so Myron storms off, now suspicious of Phil, thinking that he's hiding something. So Phil, in frustration, chases after Myron and knocks him unconscious with his wizard. Trying to think quickly, Phil puts his glasses on Myron and gets Keely to help like Weekend at Bernie's him through the hallway. They bring Myron to Phil's room at home and they cause him to regain consciousness and then gaslight him into believing that they were all abducted, which explains the bull turning into a kitten. And Myron, having a love for conspiracies, fully believes that the trio were all abducted and pledges to never tell anybody about it because he doesn't want to be tested on by the government. Myron leaves and Phil apologizes to Keely for acting like a jerk earlier, and Keely says that she understands that he needs more friends than just her, and the two make up. And finally, Phil turns the kitten back into a bull. In the B-plot, Pim is late for class and her teacher wants to go to her house for a meeting with her parents, and instead Pim dresses Curtis up to act as her father figure, and she creates a Hawaii setup in the backyard to distract Lloyd and Barb while she's pulling off this ruse, but ultimately Lloyd and Barb find out and Pim gets in trouble. In the next episode, the wizard transforms a fully grown bull into a tiny kitten.
For what purpose?
So that they didn't get rammed and run over and gored by the bull.
Okay. Why was there a bull? Where were they?
Funny you asked. Phil realized that he didn't have many guy friends, so he started hanging out with some of his guy friends. So he and his guy friends took one of the guy friends' bulls to the school dance as a prank.
Oh, so they took this bull from its home, I guess, wherever it lived.
Yeah, from a barn.
To a dance, and then
to a high school. Yeah. They eventually turned the kitten back.
Oh, okay.
Also, the wizard has a function that can knock someone unconscious immediately. Phil uses the word catatonic. Essentially, the way that plays out is that they bring the bull there, and all of his guy friends don't know that he's from the future, but one of his friends is cornered by the bull, so Phil pulls out his wizard to turn the bull into a kitten, and then his friend is like, "What the hell? Did you just see that? What the hell's going on?" And he's just like, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about." And he's like, "The bull just turned into a kitten." He's just like, yeah, that was weird." And then like he's just like, "No, you're suspicious. I'm gonna go like call the cops or something." And then Phil pulls out his wizard and then shoots a beam at him that immediately makes that guy go unconscious. And then Phil tells, and he's like, "Yeah, he's catatonic right now."
Oh,
I would have liked it better if his like stun feature is just he pistol whips the guy with the device.
Yeah.
A psychomotor disturbance that may involve muscle rigidity, stupor, or mutism, purposeless movements, negativism, caused by schizophrenia or mood disorders.
Jeez.
Damn.
Catatonic involves a state where a person is awake but unresponsive.
That's evil.
He just fucking,
he didn't even knock him out.
Yeah. And then they
knock him out.
And then they like he proceeded to like Weekend at Bernie's him and shit.
Weekend at Bernie's him. He's operating him like a puppet.
Yeah, basically. He's just like carrying him around.
That's actually evil. For
That's
what
crazy.
purpose would you ever have to make someone catatonic? That is just nefarious.
Because if it was unconscious, then you could at least do like for like surgeries, but catatonic isn't. That would be not good,
like,
right?
Yeah. That's like not okay.
Interesting. All right, Phil. I see you. And the last episode we're going to be talking about in Season 1 is episode 21, Neander-Phil. Phil sees Alice DeLuca, the mayor's daughter, and becomes smitten with her immediately. And Keeley tells Phil that they might not have all that much in common before stating that her interests are karate, the French language, and horseback riding. So Phil takes this as more of a challenge and walks into the karate club pretending to be involved to get Alice's attention. And since she's never seen him around there, Alice asks Phil if he's new and if he'd like to spar with her. So Alice takes Phil down with a judo throw, knocking him unconscious for a little while. And when Phil wakes up, he downplays the incident, telling Alice that he's had worse falls off of his horse, and then speaks a sentence in French. All of this to convince her that they really do have some stuff in common. Wow. And thanks to this dishonesty, Phil scores a date with Alice to the mayor's ball. Phil excitedly tells Keeley about the date, and Keeley mentions that the catering company she just got hired at is going to be catering for that ball, so she'll see him there. While at the ball, Phil and Keeley are chatting for a little while, and it's very clear that Keeley has feelings for Phil, as she mentions that he looks perfect and is the most handsome person at the party. And while all of this is happening at the ball, at home, Lloyd is trying to fix the brain exchange gadget that he used earlier to switch Phil and Curtis's bodies. But while tinkering with it, he accidentally switches Phil and Curtis remotely because I guess this device has saved data from the previous uses. Unfortunately, the body swap happens while Phil is going up to introduce himself to Alice's father, leaving Curtis to make a fool out of Phil instead of making a good impression like he wanted. And during this time, Keeley admits to Phil that him being there with Alice is actually making her kind of jealous, but since it's actually Curtis still in the body she's talking to, he just blows her off to intimidate a bear statue that's nearby. So throughout the rest of the episode, Phil and Curtis swap back and forth and continuously cause problems for Phil at this ball, and they essentially ruin the party for everybody. Once the swapping is finally over with, Phil comes clean to Alice and tells her that he's been lying to her about having the same interests, to which Alice responds by saying she deserves better and walking off. And honestly, yeah, it's the only real response to that. After everybody clears out of the venue, Phil and Keeley have a heart-to-heart and share a slow dance together. In the B-plot, Debbie is magically back in this episode after melting into a pile of goop. I can only imagine that this is another Sugar and Spice 800 that took the original Debbie's place after being overheated, but maybe that's just putting too much thought into it. Pim realizes that she hates Debbie and starts acting out in rage whenever she's around. Pim hurts Debbie's feelings pretty bad, but then she feels remorse, so she writes up a friendship contract for them, and so they're friends again. Too bad this is the last we ever see of her. I'm sure this cyborg also melted into a pile of goop after having to be Pim's friend for an undisclosed amount of time. We have one last piece for the first season of Phil of the Future, and then I'm gonna summon you guys back here in like a month to do it all again for season 2.
Oh boy!
Oh, I'm so excited.
How many seasons are there? 2.
Doing this one next year.
2.
It's all seasons.
There were 25 seasons of Phil of the Future before the actor for Phil went back to the future.
And I'm bringing you back for each one of them.
I'm excited.
In this episode, we have the brain exchange. I'm pretty sure it's a wizard function.
What?
But this can swap bodies with someone else. You can seemingly use it on 2 people who are unwilling, as Phil swaps bodies with caveman Curtis without his knowledge.
Oh, that's not okay. Also,
Yeah.
why would he do that? What does he want to be the caveman?
The mail delivery guy is at the front door and Curtis answered the door, and they're trying not to keep from blowing cover before Curtis goes caveman and attacks the guy. They swap bodies so that Phil is in Curtis's body, and he's like, "Oh, sorry, you saw me in my caveman costume."
I was gonna say, why not just use like the morphing feature or whatever, like for that? But if it was like a spur of the moment thing where you really need to quickly swap the body, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
So here we are at the end of season 1, and I think if I had to alter the chronological order that I looked up at the beginning of this, I would keep most of it the same, except I would move Halloween to be the penultimate episode and move Team Diffy back to its finale spot. This way, Phil having already met the mayor in the episode Team Diffy makes more sense chronologically, and this also solves the Debbie continuity error because while Pym makes fun of her in Team Diffy, she doesn't actually make an appearance, leading it to be a more permanent end for Debbie Berwick, as she will not appear in Season 2. Cyborg Debbie's death would be her true end, and in the finale, Pym would just be shit-talking a dead child, which would definitely be in character for her. So I guess we did bring up a good point earlier about a lot of the issues with the nefarious things that you could do with these devices could be explained away by world peace, but then you also have notorious asshole Andy Baxley who turned Phil into a stone statue. So clearly you still have, and Pym, who's literally a supervillain child. So it's like, you can't just expect them to obey. You know what I mean?
Maybe if you commit a crime, you just you explode.
Yeah, they send that they exile them to the past. Anybody who
did humans become cyborgs willingly, or were they forced to do it?
If they become like slaves like that, I feel like it would be shocking if they did it willingly. But...
Yeah,
there is the theory, right? The 5G theory. We were gonna put chips in our brains, right? And then the 5G towers are gonna activate and turn us all into obedient slaves. What if this is that realized?
Oh, maybe.
Chips. So maybe that's how world peace is achieved, because everybody's like an idiot with brain chips.
Oh, this is really how Unification Day happened.
It sounds like a horrible thing, honestly. What if bad people get chips put in them, and the family is really, really scared that Pym is gonna get chipped because she's a crazy evil bitch.
She's a crazy, evil, fucking horrible child.
I want a T-shirt. When you inevitably sell Raz Days merch, I would like the T-shirt that says hologram normacy.
Hologram normalcy.
I would wear that.
Do we have any other super important things to say about this?
So the very first thing, before we even started talking about anything, was just that they trust people enough that they can rent, time travel machines. Like
casual time travel.
Like that doesn't affect the future. So
enough so that seemingly a 14 or 15-year-old has his own as a graduation gift.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So what does that imply about the future? That it can be affected? That time travel isn't affected? I don't know how that works.
I think...
is there anything we can theorize about that?
As far as I know, as far as everything I've seen from Season 1, it doesn't change anything. But I think in Season 2, there's a device where you can see your own future, and it'll change your own future. But also Andy Baxley reportedly pantsed Abraham Lincoln and laughed at his mole. So did that change anything, or was that always supposed to happen,
It's like the time turner in Harry Potter. It was always going to happen.
Sure.
I think this is part of some type of time travel media, so if this sounds very unoriginal, it's from something, I guarantee it. There's also a possibility that at some point in the future, something so unimaginably fucked up happens that no matter what we do before that doesn't change a single thing in the future.
Oh, God.
I remember. It's from Link Click, I think. Which is a very good anime that I need to finish. I've only watched 4 episodes. Is it Link Click? Yeah, this is a good show. The episode I'm thinking of, right? There's a volcano eruption that happens days after that. So literally no matter what he changed in the past in that episode would affect anything, because no matter what, in one day, everything was going to be destroyed by the volcano. Does that make sense?
Interesting. Yeah, I get what you mean.
Is the Unification Day of the future the high point, and ever since then there was such an ever so cataclysmic downfall that there's nowhere fun to vacation in the future, their modern day, so their vacation is going to the past, to prehistoric times, even further past than us, Is that the only fun they can do?
I still think that's potentially problematic, because if they have a society, then the whole society, the premise of the anime is it's just 2 guys, right? So if it's a whole society that can all use time travel however they please, that seems odd that you'd be willing to fuck up the future, even if it does lead to because the sun is going to explode one day, obviously, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be good now. So as a society, we don't agree on that. I don't know. That's my
Sure.
curiosity.
My theory is sort of like a dissociated future where it's like it will all like end this, like become this. So no, like go ahead and have fun in the past because no matter what happens, it'll be this no matter what. Obviously, there's like the merit to like kind of what you're saying where it's like, well, until that happens, you know, we could still want positive things to happen, you know, because like, you know, and all that stuff or whatever. But in the future society, it's like, well, no matter what, the moon will crash into the earth and this will happen. Like there is nothing humans can do to change that course of events. So go ahead into the past and run free, you know, like that kind of a thing, potentially.
Well, it's a very nihilist future, Phil of the future.
That would explain sort of like the carefree attitude around like the laws and like ethical situations that some of these gadgets pose, though. It's like, who cares?
Who cares that you're enslaved?
Who freaking cares?
I'll have to find more information and we can further expand later on.
Yep. Important question. Is he Phil? Is he Philip? Is he Philbert?
Oh, good
Let's
question.
look. Philip Rupert Diffy.
Wait, what year was he born?
Oh, he's almost Philbert. He's Philip Rupert. He might as well
2107.
just be Philbert at that point.
All right, just to clear a few things up, at the end of season 1 for Phil of the Future, my theory about what the future world is like is that a world-altering event happened that caused everything that happens in the past to not matter at all. Even if you go back in time and change things so that the outcome is different, this world-altering event would happen no matter what, so that's why they're allowed to time travel. My initial theory would be that a meteor of some kind struck the Earth that emitted a certain type of energy unknown to us right now, and this could be the crystal material that we see powering Cyborg Debbie in the Halloween episode. This meteor could be an energy source that would power all of the future gadgets we see in the show, and this power source could be the inciting event for the unification of the world, creating world peace. My second theory would be that aliens land on Earth and their technology is obviously so far ahead of ours and they're not malicious, so they spread their like sources of power to all of the civilians on Earth that leads to a similar outcome, you know, unification underneath the superior aliens. But that's just with the knowledge from season 1. We still have a whole second season to get to work out some of the kinks in that theory. Alright, with all of that said and done, we are wrapping up season 1 of Phil of the Future. And I know you guys are probably clamoring for even more, like another 2-hour segment of this video. And I do have that scripted out and watched already. I just need to film it and edit it. But for my own sanity, I just need to take a little step away from editing Phil of the Future for a little bit so that I can come back with a refreshed perspective on it. I am planning on getting it out, you know, later this year, but in the meantime, I think I need to work on a couple other videos so I don't burn myself out on this franchise that I truly do love, and there will be an epic second half and conclusion for the Phil of the Future recap coming soon/eventually. So if that is of any interest to you, please subscribe or come back later on. Hopefully that video will pop up in your recommendeds. And that's all I have to say for this time. Thank you very much for journeying into the year 2121 with me. I will see you in the future.
Covered in
Why are they covered in?
powder.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Because they're being slaves.
I thought you said they were slave children.
They are children.
I didn't realize they were adults.
Those look like middle-aged people. Those
They're
aren't
all
children.
they're all high schoolers.
You're insane.
They're all high schoolers.
I was balding. Ew.
That was male pattern baldness. Also, not the puddle I thought she was melting into.
She turned into... What is
I
that?
told you she turned into a puddle of goop.
Black ooze.
It's goop.
I need to go back and see the students because I'm pretty certain one of them was like 50 years old.
I was gonna say that.
I feel like they didn't look that old.
Okay, well, some of them looked older than others.
There was definitely a guy there that looked
Hold
really
up.
old.
Yeah.
It'll show him again. It'll show him again.
He did not belong.
Pam! That guy, he's
those guys.
He's got a
that
buzz
guy on
cut.
the left looks old.
He had a buzz cut.
These
That's just
people
a
look
teenager
old.
with a buzz cut.
That's a guy. That guy looks old.
Yeah, they do look old. They look at least 30.
They do not look at least 30. These guys don't even look 20.
They do.
Maybe
They
19.
look 30.
This guy's fucking crazy.
That guy's 30.
Are you talking about the guy with the spiky hair?
Yes. Well, there was also the totally bald guy.
The totally bald guy is just a guy with a buzz cut. Sometimes people in high school are just bald.
Okay, but the way his face looked, man, looked like an adult. This is the
Yeah,
craziest.
because they did a close up. This guy doesn't look 30.
That guy's got crow's feet.
Does
in
not
his
look
eyes.
30.
That is not a teenager.
At most, he's like 21. He's not 30.
This guy's 30.
He's a fucking
This guy's
child.
34.
This
Look up
guy's
Cupcake Eater
37
number
years old.
4, Phil of the Future, Season 1, Episode 15, Halloween.
You
That
guys
guy
are-
will be listed as 34.
He's a 401k.
Is he talking to us?
Yeah, he's
I
talking
think
to
he
us.
might be. Can he stop?
I'm sorry, how do you say doorbell?
So if your doorbell rings and
I didn't
Doorbell.
notice that.
Your doorbell rings.
I didn't
Maybe
notice
they don't
that.
have doorbells in the future. He doesn't know how to say it.
If your doorbell.
Doorbell.
If your doorbell.
Yeah, so Pim turns evil. Well, we already knew that.
Yeah,
I just
Pim
want to see if
is
we get
more
any
evil than he
close-ups
was
on these
before, but-
fuckers.
Yeah, show me
You
that
really
30-year-old
want-
man.
That's
She's
an old
fine.
woman.
That's a child.
He's
That's a
fine.
child.
That could
That's
be
a child.
That guy's hard to tell. That could be
That's a
somebody's
child.
mom.
That's a child.
That's a.
We're seeing them. They're speed walking past. You can't even tell.
These are all children.
Where's the 30-year-old?
They're all under 14.
They're all gone.
He is definitely the father, at least two of those kids there.
That guy's a production assistant on the show, and they just need an extra body.
Oh
He
wait,
was
they have
like
a.
40.
It looks like they have a blooper of him.
Ew, that was the.
It's the guy.
See, that guy's an old.
That
That
guy's
guy's an
He's
old
not
man.
an old
That
man.
is a 30-year-old man.
No, he's not.
He's 30
That
years
guy
old.
looks old. That guy looks old. That guy could be a financial advisor.
Yes, I'm certain I've seen him in my
At
life.
oldest, that guy is 22 years old. I've seen people.
Are you kidding?
When I was
He
in
is
high school,
30
I
years
saw
old.
people. And I was in high school, I knew 10 people who looked exactly like this guy.
He's at least 47.
No shot.
There he is.
He's 40.
Well, you can blame the casting director, Joey Paul, whatever his name was.
It's always
Any-
the Joey's, dude.
Yeah, any person named Joey's an idiot.
Did you
Yeah,
see that the
stupid.
transportation coordinator had a nickname that was Mad Dog?
I did see that. I misread it as Nard Dog for a second.
Nard dog.
That's interesting. All right, I'm getting out of here.
All right, he's had enough. He's Phil of the Future out himself, you know.
Yeah,
I just can't.
so.
I can't. I can't with you guys thinking those guys were adults. They did not time travel
At
either.
least that one guy.
At least that one guy, yeah, was 30 years old.
I would be beside myself if he is under 30.
All right,
Like myself.
I'll accept. I'll accept what you have to say.
Thank you.
Get
All right, well.
out of here.